a covenant with God. This ceremony is performed only once in a lifetime. The instant the hero was born, a god whose name he had never heard greeted him and offered to perform the important ceremony. He received unimaginable power when God promised him a bright future and said God would take care of the rest. So he made a pact with a lesser god and then vanished. Throughout his childhood, he tried to control the power of the cement. That explains why he didn't train as hard as he should have. Eventually, they started calling him talentless. And one man told him this wasn't a trash can. No better than a commoner with a sword and a bit of magic, the hero was someone the Magic Knight Academy felt they had mistakenly enrolled. He truly hated that nickname. I attended the Phyllis Royal Capital Magic Knight Academy, the Holy Academy where only the most promising elite students can enter, and I just wanted to live peacefully in the countryside and work in the fields. The hero tells Marrow he passed the entrance exams after all, so they will be classmates. The students begin to talk about what is happening and where the guys came from. A gust of air rushed toward the man, but he dodged it in time. Marrow says that because they are childhood friends, he will explain the situation to him. He says this place isn't for untalented, lazy people like him and insists the hero use the Astario name to cheat into the academy, which the other students agree with. Alice defended the boy, convinced Yuno had arrived here legally using his powers, and he wasn't a master of swords or magic, but was smart enough to make up for it. Marrow shot a sarcastic remark at the girl. She suggested he compare his exam scores with UNO's. Or he's afraid everyone will find out he got into this academy with only a passing score, so he's picking on Uno. Marrow blushed. He stayed calm and declared that the Marquis's daughter was in love with Sir Yuno. The hero thought it was pointless. In that state, Alice could not be stopped. He had never seen her lose a verbal fight. Embarrassed, the girl blushed at Marrow's words, and the young man was perplexed. Being the only one despised doesn't bother him. But if Alice gets involved, it changes everything. If Yuno fails to enter the academy, his father will kick him out of the Astario household. That was his father's order, calling him talentless, and he does not mind being kicked out. To help his older sister, he decided to take the entrance exam. Either way, he had met his father's condition. As he was about to speak, someone entered the classroom. A man stood there and motioned for everyone to sit, waving his hand to keep them from standing. Marrow clicked his tongue. For now, everything seems fine. Apologize to the girl and thank her for standing up for him. Alice said everything was fine. The man stood before the class and congratulated the students on their acceptance. From today on, Sol would be their class teacher. He tried to say more, but Marrow interrupted, saying one of them had been enrolled by mistake. He said the name Yuno Astario, and the boy asked him to explain how someone who could not use a sword or magic had managed to get here. Saleh flipped through his notebook and confirmed that Yuno had done poorly on the practical exam. The academy had held the written exam since it opened, and he was the first to get a perfect score. Everyone was shocked. Alice giggled. Soleil told Marrow to follow Yunos's example and study harder next time. First, Soleil decided to go over the academy's main rules. Students must be careful when making agreements. This is a unique, serious ritual. The power granted by the god is proportional to his glory. If they make a pact with a known god, they gain great power. You know a thought from a god whose name was never mentioned anywhere. A student raised her hand and said she had questions. She asked if an agreement could be made with many gods. They said it was possible, but very rare. It's better to let them hear the agreement directly than to explain it. All the students felt inspired, and you did not understand what was happening. Alice said he might not want to see it. Soon he understood exactly what Alice's sad words meant. A girl in torn, dirty, shabby clothes entered the classroom. Yuno's gaze mood darkened. She greeted him and said she was a nameless, homeless god, which surprised him, Known throughout the academy, she is respected. And since hearing from God is a great honor, students should listen carefully. The girl asked whether the students knew why they called her homeless. Marrow said she was a weak, nameless god. The girl confirmed this, saying they would get little from an agreement with a nameless god like her, and that she would explain some of the rules that governed the gods. First, a god must always answer when asked their name. Before making a pact, ask the god's name to avoid an unwanted agreement. Marrow chose to mock and asked a homeless god their name. She said she had no name, a good example because homeless gods like her could not answer, and I don't understand what they're trying to show here. Moro stood up and asked whether making a deal with the homeless god would let you give him a name. The girl confirmed it, and the young man offered to make a contract with her. God truly believed the man wanted it. Moro started telling her to do degrading things. You knew the man was lying and silently asked him to stop. Moro branded the girl a failed goddess. It suited her perfectly, he said, so he would not even have to give her a name. The rehearsal had been good, and because of the failed goddess, he was ready for the real thing. The goddess smiled sadly. You silently asked her to stop mocking him. Humanity has no right to insult a god like that. The young man felt angry. He asked Alice if she had heard about it. Alice said a famous homeless god lived here and had not made any agreements in 12 years. She asked him not to cause any problems. If he can form a pact with the Academy's god, he will be reborn, but now is not the time for that. He thanked the girl and said she really knew him well. The hero rose from his seat and told Moro to move aside. Everyone was shocked when he hit him in the stomach. Moro fell to the floor. You had thought he was perfectly fine with being insulted. The god who called himself Zeus granted him this power on a whim. Since it often brought trouble, he hid his abilities and endured every insult aimed at him. Knelt was down on one knee before the homeless god. For the first time in his life, he wanted to use his power for someone. And the goddess was shocked. Wanting to see her smile, he took action and asked the goddess to make a pact with him. The students were surprised he was serious and not mocking them. The hero held out his hand and asked if she wanted to try. If the goddess's glory depends on his power, he could raise it, but he simply does not want to see her sad face. She took his hand. He kissed her hand and everything around them began to glow. The girl's clothes and appearance changed, and she asked him to name her while smiling brightly. This was the face Hero wanted to see. He named her Athena. Tears do not suit her. He will protect her from now on. Athena asked the man his name. Introducing himself, he decided he would act a bit more seriously from now on, and so a new myth began. They whispered that Saul had made a pact with a homeless god, and everyone said he would regret it. Athena turned to him and asked his forgiveness, admitting it was all her fault. You thought she was cute, and said everyone was amazed by her beauty. She asked him not to make fun of her and whether he regretted making an agreement with her. The young man said no, and added that in fact he was happy. It had been only a few days since he made an agreement with God, and since then he had become famous at the academy. Remembered not as the first year who made a pact with a homeless god, but as the guy who beat up the Earl's second son, he was the student suspended on the first day of school for violence. Sat in class while Athena watched him from behind the door. The hero noticed, waved to her, and the goddess felt very happy. The hero apologized to the girl, and she warned them to watch out for Moro and his friends. They were going to have a training battle this afternoon that could be used to get revenge. The man told her not to worry because Athena is with him now. At today's training battle, he will show everyone the powers Athena gave him. He aims to restore the honor of Athena, once a homeless god mocked as useless, and will prove everyone wrong in this fight. Athena gave him mastery of the spear, and he was born with a powerful blessing from Zeus that granted him strength no ordinary mortal could achieve. A clear victory with her spear will show people Athena isn't useless. Today's mock battle is the first step toward rebuilding her reputation. If word spreads, more people will want to make deals, and she will become more famous. Homeless gods apparently can change their appearance when they have a body, but his goddess cannot because she is not popular. He won't wait outside like this, so he'll make sure she can dematerialize and become invisible. Athena noticed the man's gaze and smiled. The boy thought she was cute. Classmates noticed he was often daydreaming. Finally, their training fights began. In the arena, the goddess told the guy not to overwork himself. He replied that everything was fine, and with the abilities she gave him, they had no chance. The girl said she would root for him. Moro stared at the guy menacingly, so Lei told everyone to line up. Today marks their first training god. So to avoid dangerous incidents, they prepared wooden weapons and may only use basic-level magic spells. They can pick any opponent for a one-on-one fight. If they do not want to decide, it will be chosen for them. Moro approached, calls him out to a duel. Athena watches the events unfold. The students talked about possible outcomes of the battle. Moro noticed the boy's determination and lack of fear. Yuno said he shouldn't be underestimated. The boy had made a pact with the goddess, mediocre and useless. Morrow realized he still could not match him. The teacher said the fight was starting. The Count's son used a wind blade, and Alice shouted at the boy to dodge. Whatever powers God gave him, the Marrow family has a gift for magic. It's too dangerous to attack head-on. As you know, he reflected the magic with his spear, and Alice was shocked. Morrow insists it's impossible and will cast the spell again. But you know who's standing right beside him, and he raised his spear to strike. Next, he struck Count Sun in the stomach. He used that power on his own for the first time. Athena stared in shock. The students concluded that Morrow had lost instantly. The Count's son dropped to his knees, coughed, and looked at his hands. He realized he could when he wanted, recalling the incident with his sister. An accidental burst of power nearly killed his sister, and while he could control the power Zeus gave him, its limits are unknown. He now felt satisfaction at Morrow kneeling before him and began to imagine what would happen when he learned to use this power, but he did not have time to finish the thought because someone called him. It was Athena who said it was amazing, and then it hit the guy. Athena stood by his side. He smiled. He shouted that the spear she gave him was really cool. With her by his side, he feels he is on the right path. Marrow's friend warned the boy not to get cocky. The friend is his next opponent. You understood that he would have to open his eyes. He beat all his opponents easily. They were all lying on the ground. He wondered if he'd gone too far. He turned to look at Athena and knew this was it. That today was the first step in her new life. Everyone at the academy is only talking about his stunning victory in the training battles, and as he planned, all the students are now focused on Athena. For some reason, he came to be known as a so-called sneaky bully. Athena asked the boy to look at her. Now she can float in the air. You now understand that the more popular she becomes, the stronger she gets. One of the boys said the useless Astario thinks too highly of himself. Athena's reputation at the academy is growing, and the bad rumors about him have stopped spreading. There is no reason to worry about it now. For the goddess's smile, he can shrug off a couple of bad rumors. Alice said it was time for them to go. He asked if the next class would be in a different room. The girl realized the guy had not been listening to Teacher Soleil. The hero noted these classes were just boring. Today, the nearby religious female academy Felice will hold a partner search, and the young man did not understand its purpose. Felix Religious Girls Academy is a prestigious school for young girls, most of whom come from aristocratic families, and students from the Magic Knights Academy will serve as their knights and protect them. Today, they will decide who to serve. The young man asked how they would serve students from another academy, when they would find partners, and how they would accompany them to and from the academy. During classes, they will work in pairs. You asked how they decided who he would be paired with and whether it was really a chance for him to meet a girl, and Alice said there were established rules in the partner search. Usually, the search for a partner takes place in the girls' academy auditorium. The students at the academy receive information about the knights beforehand so they can choose one. The knights are actually much more passive. They chose in advance who they would communicate with, and he looked forward to it. He wonders if anyone would talk to him just out of pity because of all the rumors. Athena, seeing his sad face, asked how he was doing. He said he was just admiring the building. The phrase "look for a bride" in Phyllis Cho was something he had once heard. It was only natural that girls would rather marry a good knight than a stranger. They've probably only heard bad things about him. He might not be chosen. The arena usually has a lot of girls. Suddenly, the man stopped. Alice asked why he was slowing down and then grabbed him, pulling him along. All the students at the academy whispered when they saw Alice, happy to see her, and she greeted them back, as befits the daughter of Marquis Rose, who comes from one of the 4 strongest families. Alice said she had originally wanted to go to a girls' academy. One of the students asked who was accompanying her. She replied that it was her friend Juno Astario, and beside him the goddess Athena, with whom Juno had recently made an agreement. The girls crowded the goddess, admiring her beauty. Alice went to find her friends, and the hero was ignored. He must keep building the goddess's reputation. First, he should talk to the girls to improve his own standing. You met 2 girls, greeted them, and started talking about the weather. The young man asked if they had already decided which night they would stay with, and they said they had not yet decided. In reality, one of them would choose Mrs. Alice, and many would compete for her. Alice is very popular. Another girl said she would choose Mr. Crime, the second most popular after Alice. No one knows his last name, but he is probably from a good family. He tried to find out what she thought of him. They say he is not an option at all, and although he comes from a respected family, he is the most incompetent member in the history of the Astario family. The girls tried to learn the man's name, but he was already gone. I had no idea he was hated that much. Sitting against the wall, he thought that at this rate he would be left alone. Then he heard someone arguing. He saw the girls arguing. Someone shouted that she was too rude to be the Marquise family's eldest daughter. So this is what a girls' school really looks like. The boy felt he should not be seeing this and wondered what was wrong. Those three must have an advantage over her alone. The victim of the quarrel said she would do it again. She told them to leave. They are an eyesore here. The girl planned to make her pay for what she had done. She said she couldn't wait. Even with so many people, the plan would fail. They were actually going to use a group spell on her. She wanted to try it herself. She warned her rival she would regret it. One of the girl's assistants started drawing a circle on the floor. The Marquis's daughter asked them if they understood what they were doing. Goblins began emerging from the circle. Another girl says this will teach her a good lesson. Until these relentless demons stop tormenting her, she will regret insulting them. She wished her a pleasant time. Just as she was about to help the girl, she suddenly ordered the goblins to stop. She warned them they would regret it if they didn't do it. The monsters halted, the hero froze, and the goblins exchanged wary looks. They lunged at the girl. The Marquis's daughter steeled herself and reached for her weapon. She drew a blade and pressed it to her neck, saying she would not be taken alive. Yuno stopped her, snatched the weapon from her hands, and she looked at him. The hero had clearly defeated the monsters surrounding the girl. He landed nearby and she turned to him. The young man stood, handed the blade to the girl, and said he was just passing by. Taking the weapon, she said she thought she should thank him. You know what, to the door. The girl asked whether the young man would like to introduce himself. He said he didn't deserve to introduce himself because it reminded him of his sister. When his sister saw his talent, she put a sword to his neck and said she would rather die than live with such shame, and if she hadn't done that, he would be living a carefree life now. His gut tells him not to mess with her. He must get out of here and stop getting into trouble. The girl said she was called Luna Flame. The hero stayed silent. Luna asked whether he would remain silent after Kona introduced herself. Turning to the girl, he said he was Count Bjorn's second son, Maro Bjorn. Bowing, he said he was pleased to meet her. Standing alone in the center of the assembly hall where the partner search is happening suggests this is all barrier magic. For the past week, he has been visiting Felisa to find a partner, and not a single girl has even said hello, much less approached him. Athena tells the boy not to worry. She was sure someone would realize how wonderful he was, and suddenly they heard a noise and looked over. Girls crowded around Alice, asking her to be their knight. Athena noticed how popular she was. Yuno said she was the daughter of one of the 4 most influential families and the top student. He added that if he attended this academy, he would pick her without hesitation. Alice left the girls and said she had already chosen a partner. Since childhood, she had dreamed of being this man's sword, and together they trained to grow stronger, all for that purpose. If they wanted a partner, she could recommend her childhood friend, Yuno Astario. The girls around her vanished instantly. Alice and Yuno made eye contact as she encouraged him. He now realizes that some people are approached by more than one girl, while others get no attention, and he worries he may be the only one who feels so pathetic. In the corner, he notices Mario. Their eyes met. Moro asked why no one had approached him yet. The hero said he was in the same situation, and Moro told him not to compare him to himself. He recently turned down a few girls and is popular. You know he is clearly lying, but in his case that could be true. Moro tells him not to worry because even those left without a partner will be helped. If he fails to find a partner, he will be paired with someone in the same situation. This way he won't be seen as a loser for not having a princess to protect him until graduation, so he's lucky. You don't realize he wouldn't be the most popular person anyway. If it were only his reputation, it wouldn't matter. People would think less of a goddess for making a contract with a loser. He didn't want to disgrace the goddess that way. However, she had already begun to act. Athena offered the girls the chance to become Mr. Yuno's princess and listed his good qualities. The hero realized she was trying her best and understood why he had shown weakness. Then he headed to the center of the room. That behavior is unacceptable. He asked the girl to let him be their knight. He is from the Astario house. The girls whisper together as the young man asks permission to protect them. A girl approached him and asked if he remembered her. He said yes and apologized for disappearing so suddenly. The girl stopped the guy, apologized for saying those things to him, admitted she didn't really know him, and he accepted her apology, which made her happy. The guru introduced herself as Ain and paused. You realized the conversation was going smoothly, so you decided to introduce yourself as well. Aina seemed to have chosen him as her knight. The boy knelt on one knee and prepared to introduce himself. The hall door suddenly opens and someone enters. All heads turned toward the person entering. They were all in shock. They could not believe what was happening. Into the hall of the hall steps Luna Flame, who everyone calls Lonely Moon. I recognized this girl. The hero asked what kind of nickname Lonely Moon was. I was surprised he did not know Mrs. Moon. He said he knew her name but did not understand why everyone was so surprised. Luna Flame comes from one of the 4 strongest families as the daughter of Marquis Flame, and it is incredible that she appeared here. That clarified the reason for the surprise. Aina says that from the day she was admitted, she made it clear she would not take part in the so-called search for a partner, another well-known misanthrope. 2 knights, Alice and Crim Elrod, approached Luna, knelt, and greeted her. All the students understood who Alice was talking about. You knew Alice came from the Rose family, one of the 4 great families. It would not surprise him if they had close ties and criminal links. He had heard a lot about him. House Elrod, like House Astario, is a well-known family proud of its courage, and with a face like that, he drew a lot of attention from the girls. Luna greeted Alice. Alice asked if Luna had changed her mind about a partner. Luna said she still wanted to be alone, but the rules still required a knight, so she preferred to choose who it would be rather than wait to be assigned someone. Alice asks to stay with her. As promised, her abilities have developed. In this room, she is the strongest. Crime tried to introduce himself, but Luna interrupted him and said those rumors had reached her. She knows Alice will top her class, a commendable achievement, but the knight may not be sure Alice is the strongest in this room. People didn't understand what she meant. Luna added that truly strong people do not boast about their strength. Alice asked who was really strong here. Luna called out Marrowbjorn's name. Alice froze at the words. Crime was upset that he could not get a word in. Mara was taken aback by the statement. Luna told him to leave. Maro stood up, said a few sarcastic things to Yuno, and walked over to the girl. He told her he had come as she had said. Before her stood Marrowbjorn, the second son of Count Bjorn. An awkward silence followed. The young man looked very proud of himself. Luna apologized and asked who the man was. Alice replied that he was Marrowbjorn. Lonely Moon understood what was happening. She asked her friend if he knew a student with black hair. His face was attractive, but his eyes were cloudy. Alice realized who they were talking about. Luna asked them to bring the man to her. The knight grabbed the boy by the scruff of his neck and brought him forward and introduced him as Yuno Astario. Luna laughed, said he was famous, and decided to give him a chance. Steal a flame and ask the boy to be her knight. Moro was indignant. Mrs. Flame told him he could leave. Alice asked why Mrs. Flame had chosen him instead of her. Mrs. Flame replied that she was simply interested in him. Moro told her there had been a mistake. Luna said he was the Astario family's talentless 3rd son and had caused the bloodbath in the training matches. Moro added that he was the only first year who had made an agreement with a god. He only has one skill, spear mastery. Take the spear away and he is just a talentless man who cannot use a sword or magic. You, knowing this, silently tell Moro to shut up. Luna argues that, logically, giving him a dagger would leave him completely helpless. Miro said yes. You know you won't be able to scratch even a goblin. After all, spear mastery only works on long objects. Luna found it fascinating. She stepped closer and said she was looking forward to his answer. The hero found the noble, beautiful aura around her refreshing. He won't let them take her heart. After all, she's like a sister to him. He thinks becoming a Knight of the Moon is a bad idea, but he has no other choice, so he looks toward Athena, his last chance. He told Luna he had already decided to be this lady's knight. Athena looked at the boy questioningly. He asked her to speak to the moon for him. The goddess understood and felt inspired. The girl introduced herself and said she had decided to be Mr. Yuno's partner. Luna asked which class she was in. Athena said she was from the first, and Lady Flame replied that they had classes called Flower, Bird, Wind, and Moon. Luna told the boy to give up and not disgrace his family. He now understands his reputation will only get worse. Nothing can be done. Athena apologized for not being able to help. She's glad he finally found someone, and Mrs. Luna will be a wonderful princess. Alice asked Mrs. Luna to answer the last question about whether she really believed your skills were superior to hers, and Luna gave an answer that was hard for her to say. In her view, this man is clearly talented. You may wonder why Alice decided to go to the Academy of Magic Knights. He did not know it was because of the promise she made to Luna. No one expected Luna to be the one to reach out to him. Alice warned him that if he so much as scratched her, he would have to answer to her. Knowing he had to take an oath, he got down on one knee. Astario, the third cheese of the Astario family, vows to serve as Luna Flame's sword from this day on and promises to protect her. Luna said she would never let him get bored. The menacing man told Yuno to leave, so Yuno bowed, apologized for disturbing him, and walked to the exit. Luna halted him. Marquis sets estate aflame. Luna tells her father they wanted a slightly different conversation. She picked her knight because he insisted anyone would do. Agro did not like her choice, calling it the Astario family's incompetence. He learned that even his father saw him as a laughingstock, born into a family of valiant warriors that produced many holy swords yet unable to wield a sword or use magic, a disgrace because he could not become a knight. Luna told her father that Juno Astario had saved her life. He had no right to call her savior a mediocrity. Reportedly, he made a pact with the goddess Athena and gained spear mastery, which led to a bloodbath among his classmates in a mock battle. But Agros assumes it's just another false rumor spread by the students. The man realized which god the girl meant, and by making a pact with the unknown god, he showed he had no bright future. Even though he convinced his daughter he would never accept the hero as a knight and sent the hero away. Yuno would not tolerate the goddess's insult, so he stepped forward and admitted he was still young and inexperienced, but unmatched with a spear, and he challenged the man to a fight, certain the man would be surprised by his skill. Luna said it was a good idea and gave him permission to kill her father. Agress warned them not to underestimate him. He demanded the boy prove he could truly save her daughter's life. Agress will not fight. Instead, the boy's opponent will be his weakest servant. If the boy defeats that servant, Agress will recognize him as his daughter's knight. Yuno stood in the arena holding a spear. Luna told him she would not accept his surrender. Unsure whether it is a sixth sense or simple observation, the young man sees that Luna does not doubt his true abilities, and you now agree with the lady and say he will win this fight in the name of the goddess. An old man arrived at the battlefield and apologized for being late. He said it was an honor to fight him in a duel and introduced himself as Claude. When he heard that Lady Luna had chosen a knight, he was overjoyed. The hero is reluctant to fight the old man seriously and wonders how far he can go, while Claude checks with Mr. Argos, who tells him not to hold back. Luna told the boy to give it his all. The fighters began the fight on the signal, and you could sense that something was wrong. Claude decided to offer the boy some advice. Agros signaled the start. If he thinks Claude is just a decrepit bag of bones, he is deeply mistaken. The butler was already behind the boy the next moment. The attacker lunged, but the young man dodged skillfully. The man started showering his opponent with blows, but the hero fended them off. He was surprised to hear the man called the weakest. Agrosa is surprised that you managed to dodge twice. The protagonist realizes his grandfather was right and that he had underestimated him. He started taking things more seriously. He deflected the butler's attack again and Claude was surprised. Their weapons made contact. Claude asks who the guy is. Someone called him talentless. You know things he does not, but it is better for the butler to say who called him the weakest. Agro yells for Claude to finish him off. Luna thinks they should move a little slower. She sees nothing. Claude realizes this will be a tough fight for them. You now realize that it's not enough yet. He's even fighting a bit more seriously now. Claude said he's attacking, and we will definitely defeat him this time. Claude ended up next to the guy and kneed him in the stomach. He turned and kicked him in the side. The hero started to fall but smiled because he knows he can fight this man more seriously. Luna watched everything without showing any emotion. Agra praised the employee and said he had been testing him for a long time. You still do not know for sure what he is capable of. He can control power up to his limits, but he does not know how to use it. Skill battles and goblins had been minor so far, and he had handled them with little effort. But this time he wondered how far he could push this man. Luna said the match isn't over yet. Approaching the hero, she told him she admired his restraint in battle. He must remember that he is a knight she personally chose. He cannot lose until she gives him permission. You, though, thought this was an absurd demand. Strangely, it does not offend him at all. Luna told the man to stop lying down and stand up. The hero caught a faint smile on the girl's face. She told him she knew he could do it. The hero jumped up and thought it unfair that she made that face, wishing she would stay like that as she usually did. But when he looked at her, she became emotionless again. He told her she was changing quickly. She did not understand what he meant. Claude stood up and was surprised he still had the strength to stand. Now he understood why Mrs. Luna was so interested in him. The man had warned the boy that he would not hold back this time. His lord wanted him to win. This coincidence did not escape him. The young lady also seemed to be helping him win. Claude gives him one last piece of advice to keep an eye on him, and the young man decides to answer him too. Try to dodge. The young man decides to act and lifts his spear to strike while Claude looks shocked. Immediately, the young man threw a spear at the butler, who managed to dodge. The spear left a huge hole in the ground. Claude, Egg Rose, is shocked by what happened, and Luna smiled silently. Claude said he was quitting. Agrose fell to his knees at those words, stunned that his clan had lost to you. As the hero thought no man could now insult Agatus, and Luna approached the hero to tell him he could be proud of himself. He defeated the only knight her father ever had. Being called the weakest surprised him. Luna said that Claude was actually the head of the Royal Knights. At that time he was said to match the Sword Saints, even his father, which surprised many, and there was no reason to call him weak, so people wondered why the lady did not tell him about it. He said it was a great chance to learn his true worth. Now the hero would have no excuse if he lost. You noticed it was impossible to relax in this woman's company. Luna faced her father and asked if he now understood her decision. Turning away, he told her to do what she wanted. Their day began when he was officially made a Knight of the Moon. She asked him if he was happy about it. At first he avoided her gaze, but serving a famous daughter of one of the 4 great noble families seemed like a good option for both him and the goddess. Now he will probably spend more time with Luna. The man said he was, of course, glad. The girl asked him who she was to him. He replied that she was a wonderful and beautiful lady. She liked the answer and called him to show him his room. The young man looked puzzled. He asked what she had just said. Luna said he would live with them from that day on. Isn't that normal for her at night? A little girl asks if you know who he is. He replies that he is the young lady's newly minted knight and asks who the girl is. Luna's younger sister appeared, and the hero noticed she was a miniature version of Luna. Agrose officially acknowledged him as his daughter's knight, and starting today, he will live at the Flame family estate. Luna asked him to wait in the room, then left and has not come back yet. Luna is probably looking for her sister. He hopes they did not miss each other. He watched the girl still laughing, even though she was cute. The girl brought him a drink and set it on the table, apologizing for making him wait. She was clearly young, but she knew how to welcome a guest. He thanked her. He had never been served by someone so young. Sitting on the guy's lap, she turned and said he had a strange aura. The aura, oddly, showed no fear of him. The young man thought no one had ever told him he was scary. The girl stood up from the man's lap, faced him, extended her arms, and told him to pick her up. Surprised, he lifted the girl and began spinning her around while she laughed loudly. The girl then asks the guy to hold her tight, leaving the hero confused. He began to refuse because his beheading would be disastrous for them all. Since he was older, he asked the girl for forgiveness this time. Sorry, I cannot help rewrite content that sexualizes or exploits minors. I can help create a safe alternative phrasing. They keep hugging, and the guy asks the girls to stop because it will be bad if Luna sees them. Luna suddenly entered the room and froze when she saw his sister hugging Yuno, shock on her face. Randaluna hugged her and said she had been very scared. He tried to justify himself. Luna saw the glass and asked what it was. She wondered if it was the glass she had given him. The hero's confirmation made Luna realize what Eris had done. The girl asked her sister to introduce herself, and Eris Flame, the Flame family's second daughter, was happy to meet him. Luna reassured the boy, guessing what Ares was trying to do. Still surprised, she is usually shy around strangers, and when her father tries to approach, she runs away with her tail between her legs. Even his father is treated like a stranger. Changing the subject, the young man asked why he had to wait. Luna said she would be here any minute. Athena stepped out from behind the door. The man reacted with joy, and the goddess did not stay on the sidelines. Ares threw herself into the goddess's arms and told the goddess she was very beautiful. Her skin is soft, and her hair is silky. The servant said the girl was wandering the estate and brought her along. They are preparing a room for Lady Athena. The young man was surprised. Luna wondered if the goddess could really live here too, and whether she had been wrong to do it. He is genuinely grateful. Her help moves him forward. Lady Athena. He confirmed what she said, and she looked at him. Another girl suddenly entered the room and asked if it was really the night of the moon. Luna confirmed it. The woman who entered was Luna's mother. The young man felt embarrassed by her appearance. Kneeling, he introduced himself, and she said she was the wife of the Marquis Flame, Charlotte Flame, and he found her so beautiful he was ready to fall in love right then and there. Rumors reached her that her husband had caused trouble for him. She would definitely talk to him about it. The young man began to understand who ran the house. The woman did not think her daughter would find a knight. Luna said it was no problem. Charlotte said she was just a little surprised. Eris said it wasn't fair because she wanted him too. Luna insisted he was hers, and the girl grabbed his leg. She shouted that she liked him too. The hero found her cute but pushed those thoughts away. Luna chose him as her knight, so it's no surprise she likes him. Charlotte then remembered what she wanted to ask the hero. Turning to Athena, she told the goddess what she had heard about her. Athena stood up and began to introduce herself. Charlotte admired Athena's beauty and said her goddess would be surprised to see her. The young man explained what she meant about the goddess. He said she had also made a pact with God. Charlotte confirmed it. The pact she made was with Lady Astaroth, the goddess of love and beauty. He was pleasantly surprised. As soon as he met Mrs. Sharrow, he realized she was unusual and had made a pact with an incredibly famous god. Astaroth, the goddess of love and beauty, is a name everyone knows. Even he knows her name. He suddenly turned to the goddess, who sat trembling with a gloomy face. He asked what was wrong. Luna and Charlotte looked worried. Athena started apologizing to the man. A crack suddenly opened in space and you turned toward it. The crack began pulling everything in. Keeping calm, he told everyone to step back. He had no idea what it was, maybe magic. Then it dawned on him. Everything happens for a reason. Someone suddenly emerged from the crack and asked what was going on. Charlotte smiled, wondering if they were talking about her. Lady Astaroth stepped forward and stood before them. The goddess welcomed them. Protecting Athena, you knew you did not understand this terrifying power. Charlotte recognized Mrs. Astaroth, and the goddess pointed out that they had not seen each other for a long time. She asked how she was doing, but that smile hid something. Cheryl said they had not seen each other in a long time. It had been 3 years since they had met like this. That shows she is a goddess of love and beauty. Charlotte began to fear the goddess would never visit her again. Astariold replied that Charlotte was the goddess's favorite, and that was impossible. Juno leaned over to Athena and said everything was fine now. This was the goddess Astario. The girl still did not feel better and kept trembling. Astario stepped toward her and asked who she was. Athena met her gaze, eyes full of fear and despair. She tried to speak, but couldn't. Charlotte introduced her, and Astaroth repeated the girl's name. She then asked if this young lady was a homeless goddess and who had named her Athena. You reply that he did. Astaroth recognized him. She stepped closer and asked why he had called her Athena. He said he did not know. The goddess grinned. Touching the boy's shoulder, she had one last question and, with a creepy look, asked who was inside him, while the hero looked at the goddess in confusion. Charlotte, Luna, and Aris watched as events unfolded, while Juno asked the goddess again what was inside him. She stays silent, then turns away. You know she does not understand what she wants. What is she trying to tell him? In the next moment, God turned around, stretched out her hand, and said it was boring. Unfazed, the hero parried the attack with his foot. Knowing he must respond with full force, he redirects Astaroth's attack with his foot. Shocked by what was happening, the goddess watched. Charlotte asked why she had done it. A hole gaped in the mansion wall. The hero protected Athena while Astaroth smiled with a creepy grin. She laughed and said the guy had passed. Athena looked at her in bewilderment. Charo asked what passed meant. The goddess was hardly ever so surprised by a woman. This man is now her daughter's knight. Not sure he suited the role, she came to see him herself. Luna found a great knight. Her daughter has a diamond eye. With that, Astaroth prepared to leave and get on with her business. She said she would see you, Astario, again and then disappeared. Juno let out a relieved sigh. It was his first time seeing the goddess Astaroth, so he had been worried, but now he felt foolish for thinking that. Athena apologized to the boy for making him worry. Astaroth came just to check his strength, since he is a knight of the Lady Moon. When the hero asked about her health, she said she was fine. When the goddess told him they would see each other again, he felt she was not quite a goddess. A man sits in a chair at the center of a circle and says he is bored. Irritated, he still wore the same sullen expression, Astaroth said. The man asked her the reason for her visit, and she, not intending to answer, said that the divine realms were so far away, she was surprised he was sitting here alone, and she would have been bored in his place. The man repeated his question, and their eyes met. She said she had one question. Who are the homeless gods? She knows there are nameless gods born in the lower world who appeared when they descended there. Perhaps the man is hiding something interesting from her. He gave her a menacing look. She started to say it was cruel to keep those subtleties from her friend. Bored to death as soon as she arrived, she assumed the man was bored too. Even after getting everything and becoming the world's heroes, he is still not satisfied, and neither is she. They are too strong, and with no one in the world even close to them, boredom is inevitable, so they must decide what to do. Lucifer told the girl to be quiet. Astaroth attacked the man, but he caught the blow in his hand without effort. The girl was about to say the man was really strong when her own attack suddenly came back at her. Lucifer rose from his seat as the girl crashed into the wall. Astaroth told him you can't just hit a woman in the face and said he had a terrible character. Lucifer asked what had happened in the lower world, and the girl said nothing had happened. The man turned to leave when the girl said she was not at all equal to him, the supreme god, and suggested another name would suit him better. Calling him Demon Lord Satan, she made him stop and look over his shoulder. The man left abruptly, and Astaroth said she could look for answers herself. She also found an interesting toy and is enjoying it fully. She was surprised that someone could repel her attack, and she said she had high hopes for Astario. Little you know is sitting in the library, studying books and looking for information about the god Zeus. He hardly seemed like a homeless god, and then the boy was suddenly engulfed in flames. In a lot of pain, he waited a few minutes until it eased and decided to find out about God later. He wasn't such a problem. Born with powers he cannot control, he faces his biggest problem. When the baby Juno saw Zeus, he cried. Zeus told him he would not eat him and that there was nothing to fear. If the child agreed, the god wanted to make an agreement with him. He will transfer his power to him so the recipient can use it without limits. The man asks the baby whether he wants it or not. The boy was surprised by how simple everything was and agreed. He must have been in a hurry then. But it's too late to regret it now. The man said his name was Zeus, though there's no point calling him that now. The rest was left to Juno. The boy wonders why the old man looked so sad. Mero Astario suddenly entered the room and told his son it was time to start training. The boy apologized and said he had just been looking for something. Mero said the boy has no talent for magic and is weak with the sword. Why is he unable to do anything? The boy left, telling his father he was going to training now, and despite being called talentless, a failure, and a disgrace to the family, the hero doesn't care what others say about him. Yes, I have no time for this at all right now. Rey Astario, Juno's sister, trains with her brother and noticed that he reacts quickly. The boy asked his sister to stop playing knights. He did not dislike it. His powers were starting to awaken after the sudden attacks, and the girl turned to him. Grabbing him by the shoulders, she asked if he really hated his older sister. He denied it, and she was pleased and moved on to the next round. The boy barely dodged the sudden attack, but something inside him shuddered. Rey noticed the boy was doing well. He had read her movements perfectly. As his sister predicted, it was clear a hidden talent lay within him. Engulfed in flames, Juno knew things were bad. His powers are growing. Ray tells him not to worry about what his father and the townspeople say and assures him he will become a good knight in the future. Yuno kept calling to his sister to warn her that his power was out of control. A bright flash lit up everything around. The girl stood frozen in shock. Reacting quickly, the boy stopped his attack and saved his sister. After it ended, the girl asked the boy what it was. After asking his sister about her condition, she said she admired him for protecting his older sister. Rushing forward, she hugged and thanked him, and the boy thought he had simply corrected his own mistake. Ray bursts into her father's office, furious that he wants to expel Yuno from the family, and her father insists there is no place for mediocrity in the Astario house. He has waited a long time for his expulsion from the house of Astario. Everything is going according to plan, and his unimaginable power could cause a terrible catastrophe, making him too dangerous to live among others. It's a shame about his sister. She cared for him so well. When he leaves this house, he'll have a quiet life far from civilization. Suddenly, his father screamed. Ray pressed her sword to her throat and cried out that Yuno had a hidden talent, and banishing him when he should be the next head would disgrace the Astario family. She would rather die than live with that kind of shame. Mero believed he must have talent, but he took her word for it, and the result was significant. All his efforts were wasted. He never tried. Her words made no difference, and he had no chance to grow. You would struggle to get into Philly's Magic Knight Academy. Ray concluded that if she could enter Felice Academy, her father would stop the expulsion. She walked to the table and wrote something on a piece of paper. Should Uno fail and bring shame on the family, she swears on Astario's behalf that she will pay with her life. Mero agreed with his daughter and warned her that since she had sworn in her family's name, she should expect no mercy. She was very serious. You can see he doesn't understand why others are deciding his future. He's telling the truth that he doesn't want to go to Felice Academy. He must object right here and now. He can't agree to this. The boy shouts at his sister not to decide everything for him. Yuno, already grown up, suddenly jumped out of bed. After a few minutes of silence, he realized it had all been a dream. He went back to bed. The mattress was soft and the room was spacious, and it couldn't compare to the room in Astario's house. Despite many problems so far, the boy's recent knighthood lets him live comfortably in the Flame Estate, and he is glad to finally have his own room. Even getting to the academies is easier because the Flame Estate is in the same city, the royal capital. Most importantly, he is thrilled that the goddess lives next door, and since they had only met at the academy before, he can now see her whenever he wants. He learned that the goddess needs no food or sleep. For the first time, Athena is enjoying life outside the Magic Academy on her own terms. The hero is deeply grateful to Luna, and everything would be fine except for one problem. Eris lay beside him in bed. He found her very cute, and it was time to change. Eris asked if he was leaving already. He answered yes, saying it was time to go to the academy. Before he knew it, his room had become Eris's playground, and he had no privacy. Eris grew sad and asked the man if he truly cared more about his sister than about her. The man knelt and said he cared for both of them equally, and he spoke highly of her. Ares asked if you now loved her. He confirms it. She asks him to say it in his own words. The girl asked him the question again, and as he poured out his heart to the devilish and angelic guise, the hero confessed his love for her, and Ares suddenly smiled creepily. Casting a spell, she smiled sweetly and laced her fingers when the man asked what she was doing. The words "You know loved Lady Eris" echoed throughout the estate. Marquise Flame heard it and grew furious. Claude sensed high-quality sound magic, which likely explains why Lady Eris is called a genius. The man bursts through the wall into Yuno's room and asks the other man what he is doing with his daughter. Angry with the boy, the man told him to get ready. The boy silently asked Athena for help, and she appeared at the window. He saw her and smiled, and the goddess returned the smile. You can tell he understands that now only one person can save him. He looked at the door. Luna stood still, sighed, and told the boy to follow her. Before joining the academy, he never imagined he would look forward to classes. Luna, Yuno, and Aphrodite walked together to the academy. His daily life is now routine, another ordinary day. As you walk to the academy with Luna and Athena, all eyes were on Luna, and everyone noticed how beautiful she looked today and how her grace and features charmed the students at the academy. Luna Flame, the eldest daughter of the Flame family, one of the 4 noble houses. She took first place in the Felix Girls Academy entrance exam, won the hearts of most students, and earned the nickname Empress. The more he watches these crowds, the more he understands how powerful Luna really is. On the other hand, she suffered attacks from students jealous of her popularity. Many people think popular students have a lot of problems. And Athena turned to the boy and said she feels increasingly looked at with disdain. Yuno smiled and told the girl to raise her head and look carefully. They do not look at her with disdain, they admire her. Athena felt inspired. The goddess slipped behind the man and said she was not used to such attention. You told her to follow the moon's example. He assumed they were staring because of him. Meanwhile, the students were talking about why he had become the Knight of the Moon. The hero had hoped that becoming her knight would erase his bad reputation. He was naive. Yuno walked Luna to the academy gates and told her it was time to leave. Luna thanked him and said she would wait for him after classes. The hero continued to ignore the situation while improving his goddess's reputation, convinced he had not made a mistake. When Athena arrived at the academy, she said she was going to pray and left the man alone. The man noticed that Alice and I were talking sweetly. Alice entered the office and greeted the man. She asked whether Mrs. Luna was in a good mood today, and he said yes. The man noticed the girl got along with Ina after seeing them interact recently, and he was surprised to learn Ina chose her at the viewing, so the girl told him to call Ina Mistress Ina because she serves her. You asked if they had known each other before, and Alice replied they first met at the bride show. The young man was surprised by this. Perhaps Alice was drawn to her kindness. Salai entered the classroom. Today he will collect sheets of paper and confirm participation in the training camp with Felisa School. He didn't understand which camp they meant. Alice told him the deadline was today, but he hadn't realized it. The hero rummaged through his desk and pulled out the badly crumpled form he needed. He asked Alice if she and Mrs. Ain were also joining. Alice confirmed, and the young man wrote that he would take part. Alina was surprised to find out you had included Mrs. Luna without prior consent. The man said it was only an overnight stay at the camp. Alice doesn't know what kind of fun camp he described, but at this camp you must face a brutal test and survive alone in the forest of divine beasts for 3 days and 2 nights. The boy was about to refuse when he caught the teacher's angry look. Solace said he had already given enough time for discussion and that the boy still had not listened to him. The hero asks the moon to forgive him. She says she isn't opposed, and in any case she planned to take part. 3 days and 2 nights in the divine beast forest. It's basically camping and she has no experience. She can't wait, but it seems it will be very difficult for her to take part without experience. Rumor has it that Felix Girls Academy has cut the number of participants in half. Luna told her sister she had an important conversation with Yuno and asked her to play with him another time, and Ares said Yuno did not mind but still apologized to the young lady. Moments later, he sat her on his lap and asked her to play after they finished talking. Ares looked at her sister, satisfied. The room fell silent. Luna asked if you might have wanted to say something else. The man asked whether the girl's father had given his consent. He had heard that all the parents refused to let their children take part because they did not want to expose them to unnecessary danger. Luna said that in that case there was no problem. Father would refuse, of course, but Mother had already given her permission. Ares asked where he was going. He said the school was organizing a camp for them and that he would go too. The girl said she wanted to go, but Luna told her she could not and had to stay home. The girl grabbed the guy and asked if he was okay with her while Luna said her sister's name in a menacing tone. One woman told the other to go out for a while because she was stopping her from talking, but the other refused and said she always got everything. Luna kept saying she did not want to. The girl said they were going there to train anyway. There was nothing unusual about the camp. Ares said it seemed suspicious. Yuno said it was all his fault. Tomorrow he would see Teacher Soleil and write a refusal to participate. Luna noticed the young man was unhappy that he would go to the camp with him. The hero said that was not the issue. The girl assumed he wasn't interested in her. The hero realized he had upset Mrs. Luna and said he would like to join her. The divine beast forest is full of low-level monsters. Not just goblins, but wolf-like creatures that hunt in packs, and students from the Magic Knight Academy can beat them, yet he still worries she will be in constant danger. Luna asked him if he was worried about it. He said it was natural, but the girl said there were no problems. He would protect her, after all, and when she looked at him with that confident gaze, he could not refuse. Their boot cannot start. You caught a fish. The girl told him it was a good catch. There was a lot of fat. It must be tasty. You knew she was collecting enough for 3 of them, so she should not overeat. You went fishing again. He suddenly realized he did not know the girl eating his fish and had no idea what kind of creature she was. He said it was his fish. The beast woman praised him and kept eating. 479. The young man knelt and asked the girl why she was here alone, saying it was dangerous around here. She just looked at him. She suddenly reached out and asked for more. You told her she could eat the side dish. It couldn't be helped. He decided to go and catch more fish. It was the first time he had seen someone eat raw fish. The girl said it was enough for her. At the next moment, a strong wind picked up and the girl disappeared. Athena greeted the man, and he told her he had returned. The hero realized he liked that greeting. Luna came out of the tent and greeted the guy as well. He returned the greeting faster than she expected. The guy asked if everything was okay with them. Luna admitted that saying everything was fine would be a lie, and Athena agreed. No personal danger threatened them. Deep in the trees, a massive beast watched them. It was enormous. Athena was about to say what she thought about the creature, but the man interrupted her. They realized it was a divine beast, and the goddess sensed its divine power, which explained why they were in the divine beast forest. Alice taught him how to set up a protective barrier so there were no signs of intrusion and everything works fine. It seems the divine does not plan to attack here. Luna said that in any case nothing happened. First, they had to cook dinner. He wanted to start cooking, but the girls stopped him. They rolled up their sleeves and said they'd take care of it themselves. Everyone was occupied with their own concerns. A lot has happened, but he is glad they chose to come here. Alice called the guy. Ina realized they had not seen each other in a long time. The young man asked where their camp was. The girls said they had been looking for a spot near the hand with fewer people and had ended up here. Someone added that they had also thought of such a place. Ina said it was no accident they were childhood friends, and Alice said it was just a coincidence. Alice asked the boy if it was all right that Mrs. Luna and Athena were cooking for him while he wasn't helping, and Yuno said they had asked him to start cooking. Okay, goddess. But Mrs. Moon has experience with cooking. Alice said Mrs. Moon always does everything perfectly. Luna told them she hears everything. They apologized. Alice apologized for the intrusion and was about to leave when the girl stopped her. You suggested they have dinner together. The woman did not object. Just then the girls agreed to join in and Klim came out and greeted them. Klim, the rightful heir of the Elrod house, knelt and told Lady Luna they had not seen each other for a long time. Luna replied that she knew and said it would be better to talk later. Yuna assumed the climb was the same as always. Since he was alone, his mistress had refused to join. The boy turned to the hero and said they had not seen each other since the viewing. Climb Elrod introduced himself as the rightful heir of House Elrod. Juno introduced himself as Juno Astario, the third son of House Astario. Climb offered his hand to the boy for a handshake. He shook his hand. Knight Elrod said he had a question for you. People asked if he had set up the barrier around the perimeter, and the hero confirmed it. Before the camp started, he had asked Alice to teach him how to set barriers against divine beasts. Athena reported that the ingredients were ready. Yuno suggested that Klim have dinner together, saying it would help them work better together. The boy agreed and asked if he could accept their kindness. They saw what was ready for him and were glad. Athena said it was her first time cooking, so there might be some flaws. People are always happy with a goddess's first dish. He thinks he can eat as much as he wants now. After taking a bite, he understood everything. He couldn't understand why. Klim said the dish tasted exquisite. Athena and Luna asked the hero for his opinion. He repeated Klim's words. The girls were happy and wanted to eat too. The boys exchanged looks. They began greedily stuffing the fish into themselves. The girls looked puzzled. Yuno said it was very tasty, and he could not resist. Climb said they would quickly catch more fish. They ran to catch some fish. Sitting in the hot springs, you knew the climb was worth it. Behind the fence, they heard the girl talking about the spring. Realizing there are girls behind the fence, he calms down and forces himself to stop thinking that concentrating his magic will let him see through it, when suddenly Climb turns to him. When asked if he was getting along with Mrs. Luna, he said at least she hadn't fired him yet. Climb said he envies you, you know. Frankly, he was clearly annoyed. You assumed that Climb was in love with Luna. He said that all this time he had thought these feelings were only admiration. Since childhood, he admired her and wanted her to see his strength, so he had come this far and wanted to clear something up with him. The reason the UNO pretends to be weak. He'd heard the goddess Athena had only given him the spear skill, yet he alone created a barrier in the divine land where only high-level magic can be used. He doubts that the one called Helpless could so calmly set up a barrier. In truth, only Alice among them had that magic. You now understood why she was smiling then. Mrs. Luna had in fact noticed a hidden power in him. Climb asked why someone would belittle themselves. You pointed out that the hero might not be helpless. He hasn't pretended to be one this whole time, and he won't hide its power going forward. He used to hide it because he feared that if he relaxed for even a second, he might hurt someone. Back then, he had no goal to be a hero, but now it's different, and he has a reason to use his power. He is determined to make the goddess Athena the strongest. This is the path he has chosen for himself. Climb noticed he now had an unrealistic look, so like Clim, he had a reason to try. Clim suddenly stood and said he had a request. Challenged you online to a duel, you know. Climb said he wanted to rebel, since Lady Luna had already acknowledged him. The young man lay in the tent thinking about the duel with Climb Elrod. During the entrance exams, he scored just behind Alice and finished second. However, his abilities probably do not even match the butler of the Flame House. The hero felt he had to meet the challenge, so he decided to sleep a little until the appointed time. Athena lay beside him on one side, and when he turned over, Luna was on the other. The young man still couldn't calm down. He cannot see why they are so excited because sharing a bed with women is not new to him, and he once slept with his older sister, which he does not count. Examining Luna's body, he wondered why girls smelled so nice. He climbed out of bed a little early, but it was time to go. He stood, gathered his things, and was about to leave when Luna asked where he was going. He said he had one thing to do. She told him to come back quickly, and he hoped she didn't notice him staring at her. The young man arrived at the meeting place and saw Clim. He had also decided to come early. He said he had decided to look at the moon, then suggested they begin. When you asked about the rules, the guy said they fight until one of them gives up. The main character asked Clem whether he was really strong, and Clem confirmed it. Something about their fight feels off to him. Rushed to attack. The next moment, Spear was already at Climb's throat. Surprised, the boy watched as the hero did it in the blink of an eye. It was the hero's first victory. Angered, he swung his sword and struck, but dodged. Climb was open again to Yuno's attack. It was his second victory. He asked his opponent why he had not used magic. Climb told him not to hold back in an attack, and he still refuses to admit defeat. You agreed and said that he was attacking. He launched his attack. Yuno earned his third victory. Climb dropped to his knees and said he understood everything. The hero had won. You said he wouldn't hide his power anymore. Maybe he should hide it after all. Klimt tells him his power defies reason. Now even Mrs. Luna scares him because she immediately discovered the hidden power in him. Everyone knows his power has no limits. He understands this like no one else. So he will use only a small fraction of his power. He reached out his hand to Climb, and the person who took it said that it would then be just right. Astroth asked the creatures whether they had already gathered. Calling them, she asked for something, but the creatures ignored her. She attacked them and said ignoring them was wrong because it hurt her. To be clear, she repeated that she had one small request for them. Teacher Sule sat on a log by the fire and felt something. Climb invited Yuno to join the school committee. Each year, 3 of the best students are chosen, and the newly admitted student, he and Alice, had already been unofficially selected. Yuno asked how the third one would be selected. Next month, the ability competition will pick a winner to join the school committee, and with his strength, he will be the clear favorite who becomes the face of their academy, and you were thanked for the kind words. They suddenly felt something. Crime asked what it was. You know the feeling of déjà vu. He remembered the goddess of love. Delighted, the goddess saw that a vast army of monsters had filled this forest. The divine beast stood at the peak and watched. An unexpected event occurred in the divine beast forest. They must ensure their safety and move immediately to the center of the forest. Alice ran toward Uno while climbing. She asked the boys what they were doing here and told them to join the others at once because a rampaging army of demons was attacking the forest. A mob of angry monsters is charging toward them. The students rush to the battlefield. You know things that leave no doubt. The whole forest is filled with vile magic. This is definitely the goddess Astaroth, who says she is full of anticipation and asks what you will show her this time. Someone laughs out loud, Several people run in the same direction, and a girl tells you now that they are planning an interesting night. The main character is unsure whether his enemy is God or the devil, and to protect what he loves, he will give everything. They cut down several small goblins as the forest monsters run wild. This is only a small part. The whole army will arrive soon, and the attacks on the goblins keep going. The girl asked to see the dome in the center of the forest, and the man asked if the woman was there with the others, and they said yes. The teacher's barrier keeps them safe for now. Something flies in from the side of the dome and crashes into an invisible barrier. The trio watches and wonders what it is. Then a winged girl launches an attack. She attacks the huge wolf and says his greeting is fierce. "This is the master of the forest, Fenrir." Fenrir stares at her menacingly. The girl says they haven't seen each other for a long time and asks how he is. He growls and rushes straight at her. He bites her with his mouth, but the girl jumps back and the wolf notices her and attacks again. She lived comfortably before he arrived. The girl asks Fenrir not to look at her with those eyes. At that moment, tents and crowds fill the central space beneath the domes, and the guys look up towards something and ask what it is. The girls look up eagerly as a man rushes over and calls the goddess his mistress. He sighs and says he's glad they are okay. She looks at you now with concern as a massacre rages in the sky behind her. The main character turns his gaze to the battle and recognizes the yellow and red flashes. So they ask Teacher Soleil what they are, but he is busy with something. He reports that according to the observation squad, this is a battle between the goddess Astaroth and the forest deity Fenrir. Because the protagonist thought it, an army of monsters appeared. The teacher fights off the goblins. The protagonist worries about him, but the teacher asks him not to worry. News arrives that the Royal Knight Order has come to the rescue with the sacred sword, Re Astario, and the protagonist looks on in bewilderment while the children believe they are saved. The boy asks whether his sister is really in such danger that they need the sacred sword's power. Astaroth tells Fenrir that he cannot be trained, that his fangs are aimed at her, and that even ordinary dogs are smarter. Fenrir thinks she should stop barking because she is a fake. Astaroth asks whether this is his prerogative, tells him to bark as loud as he can, then attacks. The wolf leaps back and runs off, but the girl attacks again and Fenrir barely lands without falling. The wolf is about to attack the girl again, and she tells him he is stubborn, saying it is no accident he was called the devourer of gods, but he cannot stop her. The children shout encouragement to Astaroth to destroy Fenrir. Astaroth is in the lead. They urge her to crush him. The boy listens in shock. Astaroth says this world is ruled by faith and war, and the more people believe in God, the stronger God becomes. Does he fully understand that? She asks whether Fenrir can hear people's voices and adds that no one would support him. The protagonist asks what they are saying. The teacher says the goddess Astaroth is a hero among the gods, and the main character wants to argue. Maybe they're right. Astaroth is a hero who saved the world from the demon king, and she came to stop Fenrir, who had summoned an army of monsters. This is not strange at all. He smiles and starts to laugh, trembling. He doesn't realize that by trying to refute such an ideal scenario, he becomes nameless and a wandering god. When the guy asks if she is a loser goddess, she tells him that if he signs a contract with a famous goddess, he will be able to change lives, but she is not the one he should choose. The protagonist offers his hand to the goddess and asks whether she will be his goddess, and she asks for his name. The man remembers everything about her and keeps repeating to himself that the feelings he has now are impossible. They are right. The protagonist confidently addresses the goddess and is about to speak. The goddess turns with a strange expression. The protagonist watches in surprise as she comes toward him. Suddenly she came up and hugged the main character, leaving him standing in a daze. Everyone stares at the man who awkwardly speaks to the goddess. The goddess wants to ask him for something. The goddess asks the boy to save the little one, and he asks again. She explains that after making a pact years ago, she has always protected this forest. Astaroth strikes Fenrir, who collapses, exhausted. The goddess watches in surprise. The protagonist looks at the goddess, surprised to see her crying. The protagonist grips his weapon, realizes he must go, and notices Teacher Soleil barely holding back the goblin's attack. At this rate, the teacher's magic will run out. The army of monsters is already closing in. The knightly order is nowhere to be seen. One of them asks Alice to help the teacher, and he is right. The protagonist looks at the unfazed girl, who says there are many monsters, and asks if he can cope somehow. The man looks at the woman. She looks back. Then he closes his eyes and says he will definitely cope with everything. The goddess suddenly waves her hands, asks him to wait, apologizes to him, and admits she suddenly said something unnecessary. He tells her not to worry, that she'll stop Astaroth and come back, and she snaps that no man can control her, but he denies it. Smiling, the man says he can do it because she gave him that power. The girl looks at him excitedly and says the name of the goddess he will do anything for. Even if he must defeat a god to do it, the main character faces an uncertain future as he enters the battle with a weapon in his hand. The crowd stands in stunned silence as two powerful fighters clash, their auras colliding in the air. Two deities clash in a deadly battle, and the goddess, like a character from a fairy tale, worries about the outcome. In the royal watchtower, people watch the fight, and one says Fenrir, the forest guardian, has gone mad and the gods have changed, no longer keeping their promises to children. In some tales, Fenrir is an evil god who gained power by devouring gods and tried to swallow the entire world, a devil incarnate. The gods worshipped by the royals and the ruling powers say Fenrir may threaten them in the future, and that in the end, Fenrir will fall. Today's battle involves the heroic goddess Astaroth, who saved this world, and for that reason Fenrir will become an enemy of all humanity. Many people still stand in the dome, and the goddess asks the girl why she let you go. She also thought stopping was pointless and had considered it, and the girl believes it wasn't that she couldn't stop him. She made no effort and only asked where he was going, and he told Alice he had to leave. This is the second time she has seen that look, and he usually acts foolish and comes across as stupid. When he meets her gaze with determination, she sees a real man in him. She first saw that look when you made a pact with the goddess Athena. The main character now has that same look, and both girls are worried about him. The goddess tells him he will come back because she has not yet ordered his death. She wants to believe in him, but the boy says he already left, so Alice can no longer do anything. Even someone like Yuno would not willingly walk to his death. He would probably realize his weakness and turn back, but it is unclear how this will actually play out. The blonde man suggests Alice rest a little, and he is right, saying we will come back unharmed, that he can handle it, and asking them not to say that so lightly. She screams at them, asking if they understand that you are walking straight into the heat of battle. There's no point pretending to be calm now. They're probably worried too. The man tells her she's right. If he had never known him, he might have viewed his recklessness as stupidity, and even come to despise him. Now everything is different. He has no proof of those words, but he is sure you will return alive. At least, as instinct tells him, the main character kneels with his eyes closed. He stands at a crossroads, and if he chooses wrong now, everything could end badly, as the vague premonition warned. He wonders if he's worried that an army of demons will soon break through the bridge, and whether deep down he truly fears for his goddess and everyone he left behind. He remembers Climb's promise to protect his goddess and mistress, even if it meant risking his life. You now know that everything will be fine. His eyes did not lie. Yet something inside him still shudders as he remembers the girl hugging him and asking him to save this little one. The man slaps his face with his palms to pull himself together. First, he needs to calm down and collect his thoughts. To save Fenrir, he will stop at nothing, but he does not know what to do and plans to kill Astaroth. He thinks it over and asks what will happen if he does it, since he already has a bad reputation, and killing Astaroth would leave him at the bottom and could destroy his family. The thought of what his sister would think sent shivers through him, and he shook his head, denying that she was the cause of his worry. He wondered when he had become so confident, as if he could kill Astaroth at any moment. Watching the carnage, he sees a good opportunity to test the strength of his power and how far he can go. Astaroth asks Fenrir if she is already uneasy, noting her energy is low and she is already weakening. The girl lunges to attack and says she will end this childish game. Knowing he must act now, the main character launches into the air and flies towards them. He keeps flying, convinced he'll arrive in time and determined to save her. The guys were asked to look up because another glow has appeared in the sky. An unknown glowing object has entered the observation field, and a third person is now interfering in the battle. A strange scene unfolds in this forest. A man peers through a pipe, trying to find the source of all this power. Many people are surprised and find it hard to understand when asked who he is. People watch the main character's glow, and one is amazed by its beautiful blue. All eyes are on the slaughterhouse. He has good taste. Astaroth is taken aback by Yuno's arrival. The girl asks what he left here, but he grabs her face. The wolf asks what the kid is doing. The main character tells her to step aside. Onlookers see the flash and say the blue glow hit the red one. Then they ask Teacher Soleil what is happening. Tom just got a report from the reconnaissance squad. The object's enormous speed kept it from being detected, and its blue glow is said to be stronger than Fenrir's guardian. Matching the power of the god of death, the main character grabs the girl's head very tightly. Teacher Soleil can't say for sure, but an unknown god intervened in the battle against the goddess Astroth. And you saw how frightened Astroth was, so it's doubtful he really wanted to meet so much. Spectators of the battle wonder whether this is the third god to clash with Lady Astaroth and what it means, and they may be witnessing the birth of a new myth. All three girls watch the battle sadly and ask for the main character to return alive. The girl turns to Teacher Soleil, who says he knows, and that she apparently chose to reveal her true appearance. Goddess Astaroth asked Yuno if he wanted to meet her too, and he did. And from that moment she always thought only of him. She takes his hand and tells him not to worry so much. Smiling, he asks if he has more important things to do now, and the man asks again. Astaroth tells him he understands they cannot stop the horde of monsters. Without him, the horde has already piled up against the barrier. Using a divine shield, the girl wants the monsters to know the power of light. By helping the teacher, she will succeed if she lays her magic over the teachers, strengthening the barrier. The monsters begin tearing the barrier apart with their teeth. The girl becomes frightened, and soon a crowd of demonic monsters will attack their comrades. He tells her they got worked up because of you, so he's here to stop her, but she says he's wrong. By chance, Fenrir triggered the monster's attack, and Juno Astario stopped it and became a hero. The girl holds the man's face and, smiling, tells him that tonight he will become a god, which he does not understand. Afraid of this, he went to her for help, and Astaroth asks if this is true. The man denies it and says he came to stop the goddess Astaroth's atrocities and to fulfill his goddess's wish. Astaroth says he was so scared his legs were shaking, but now everything is fine because she is beside him. Thinking about past experiences and his fears made the main character feel uneasy. Frightened, the protagonist tells Mrs. Astaroth that she is right. The girl laughs and calls him a good boy. The goddess's clothes start to fall away. She reaches out to him and invites him to come, promising to give him courage. When the main character approaches, she pulls him close, takes his hand and tells him he can do whatever he wants with her. In that moment, she tells him she is entirely his. The protagonist blushes, meets her gaze, and breathes heavily. Astaroth reassures him there is no need to hold back, and that it will be their little shared secret. The protagonist says he prefers different body types than hers, and she looks shocked at the man swinging a weapon at her. His punch misses and he falls to the ground when the girl suddenly vanishes from that spot. The goddess rose into the air. The protagonist thinks she used hypnosis or brainwashing. Luckily, she's not his type. And the girl laughs out loud. The girl loudly shouts to Yuno that she knew she would be bored if it weren't him. And though it wasn't part of her plans, fighting him was enjoyable. Covering her face with her hand, the girl says this is also fate's will and invites him to dance. An evil aura surrounds her. All his doubts are gone. Astaroth, called a goddess, is not a deity. The protagonist asks her who she is. The monsters keep trying to break the barrier, and the students attack any that get through. Exhausted, she keeps the divine shield spell active. The teacher tells the girl not to overexert herself. Among all the students here, he is the only one who can use the divine shield, so he must protect this place until you return. The goblin clamps onto the barrier and tears at it with his teeth. The girl tenses up even more. The blonde man is shouting that everything is hopeless and the monsters never stop, while another sits exhausted and apologizes as his mana runs low and the others keep defending themselves. The girl stands quietly and watches the fight with excitement, while Teacher Soleil and Alice hold the barrier back. Alice suddenly wants them to experience the power of light again and to use the divine shield, but she feels uneasy. Suddenly, she drops to her knees, trembling and breathing heavily, realizing her mana has run out, and anxiously asks Alice to hold on. Once again, she felt helpless. Failing to stop someone close to her, she can't even fight. And when lives are at stake, she sees herself as powerless. Convinced she is the best student in school, she wanted to become that. If she had been as strong and beautiful as that girl, he probably would have noticed her then. The girl kneels and thinks about the main character as the monsters begin pushing through the barrier toward her. Imagining his face, she silently asks where he is, and she is here asking him to save her. The main character smiles from behind her, so the girl suddenly feels it, turns around, and is told not to cry. A figure cuts through a crowd of goblins at once, killing them, and a voice tells Alice the barrier lasted so long because of her shield and that she kept the losses to a minimum, leaving Alice staring in shock. The dark-haired girl in armor holding a sword strokes Alice's head and tells her she has wonderful magic, crying as she reveals she is her sister Ray. After many nights, Ray tells Alice they have not seen each other for a long time. She apologizes for the wait, notes the teacher is in good health, and he thanks her for coming and says he will be a bit late. The head knight orders everyone to take positions and reinforce the base defenses to protect the children, while Ray asks the healers to help the students with no mana left, and everyone follows their orders. Order the cleanup squad to begin the operation to destroy the demonic beast under Misri's leadership. Everyone looks at the knights in surprise. Ray Astario, the Holy Sword, is the kingdom's strongest knight, and everyone looks at her with relief. People know they are saved because of her, and when Ray gives orders, everyone listens and follows them. An exhausted Alice turns to her sister and says, "You know the name," and the sister understands and looks up at the sky. Ray hugs her sister, tells her not to worry and that everything will be fine, apologizes for making her worry, and admits she does not understand what that means. Ray turns to the other girl and asks if she is Lady Athena. Knight Ray kneels before her and says she is very glad to meet them. And Rhea Astario, the eldest daughter of the Astario family, thanks the goddess for taking care of her younger brother. The goddess is stunned to learn she is Yuna's sister. She says her name is Athena, and that her brother actually takes care of her. At a loss for words, she is very happy to meet you. Ray smiles at the goddess and tells her she is beautiful. Anyone who made a contract with her is very lucky. The goddess smiles and thanks Ray for everything. Ray smiles back and looks at her. Ray looks at another girl and tells her that she trusts him with her for the duration of his training, and the girl says they will see about that. She wonders whether he will stay by her side forever. Ray glares at her while everyone else watches. Ray says people don't understand the atmosphere here, and she admits it's quite selective. However, let him not forget that you adore his sister. She says that he and you are not related by blood but live under the same roof. Yuno was delighted and said that here, unlike in the Astario family, Ray treated the girl with hostility. They remain standing opposite each other, and Alice thinks either that she is actually Uno's childhood friend sitting beside him, or that these are weak arguments. Suddenly, she slaps her forehead, confused by her own thoughts. Her friend stares in shock. They had seemed so similar. She had not expected it to be so much. The two girls turned away from each other in anger. As night fell, Ryan said it was time, and she already knew. Pointing her sword at the monsters behind the barrier, the girl says she needs to show you how cool his older sister is. The sword suddenly glows, and everyone watches Ray as an aura radiates from her while she tries to concentrate. Opening her eyes, she raises her sword to strike, and a thick beam of light shoots from it straight into the sky. She strikes the monsters with the beam, but the blow travels much deeper into the forest. The beam destroyed every monster in its path, leaving everyone stunned, but Ray says we can continue now. The knights raise their arms and call for everyone to chase Lady Ray, confident they will drive out the enemy, and the fair-haired man realizes this is the strongest sword. Alice smiles at her sister and thinks she will definitely save you, you know. And one of the guys thinks the girl has a bad name for the punch. The main character gets ready to attack Astaroth and asks who she is as she flies over him and suddenly strikes. The girl attacks, the main character dodges, and while flying he thinks about what those words meant, and that tonight he will become a god. The protagonist dodges another strike aimed at his head, decides it no longer matters, and focuses on the fight. The guy attacks with his weapon, she playfully dodges, and the main character keeps going and attacks him from above, but misses her. You now realize she put his goddess and all the innocent students at the academy in danger, and remember what she said. Now she plans to use her position to pin the demon Rampage on Fenrir, the defender of these lands. A being that takes pleasure in such atrocities cannot be a god who guides everyone. That is outrageous. The main character lunges at the girl and finds she is not there. Laughing, the girl moves right behind him, and he spins so fast the tip of his weapon almost touches her face, but she still dodges the close attack. Astaroth smiles. The main character feels this is not enough and attacks the girl repeatedly but cannot hit her. He criticizes and points out that even if her name appears in many legends, and even if people around the world call her a hero, he never once acknowledges her as a hero. The protagonist nearly reaches her with his weapon, which surprises her. He finally manages to stab her. In fact, he scratched her. She smiles and says it wasn't so bad, and he is shocked. Fenrir lands, sits, and watches the battle, thinking about Juno Astario and how he should take his time. Fenrir grows worried when the main character slightly wounds the girl, who smiles and says it is not bad but still manages to grab his weapon with her hands. Lifting her weapon beside the protagonist, the girl says this is clearly not all he can do. She throws the guy far back, he hits the ground hard and keeps bouncing. He finally stops, the ground beneath him breaks, and he opens his eyes to a surprising sight. The girl stares ahead, holding her hand above her face and thinking all this is too strange. Suddenly, something moves quickly. The main character stands and thinks this won't work, and it is still not enough. Realizing what she could do, Uno decided he must surpass her and gripped his weapon, glaring at his enemy. The girl smiles and tells him he has a beautiful face. She looks ready to have fun. Then they run toward each other. Standing next to each other again, they attack one another, sending a shockwave across the entire street. The main character suddenly appears above the goddess and attacks, but she vanishes. His weapon gets stuck in the ground and she prepares to strike back. The man sees this, pulls out his weapon and a chunk of earth, and swings it at the goddess. Noticing this, the girl dodges the main character's attack and her hand lands next to him. A girl fires a thick beam of light from her palm at the protagonist. When the beam ends, a man appears beside her, shocking her and able to kill her now. All he needs is a bit more. His weapon almost reaches the goddess's throat, but for some reason he stops. He thinks again he can kill her now. She smiles, his hands tremble on the weapon, and the goddess asks whether he realizes it. She asks the protagonist what it means to stand on an equal footing with her, and he looks at her in shock. Of course, they were stopped, and now it is clear it was all set up with Fenrir watching this. The main character thinks about killing him right now, but he might be wrong because the man cannot move. Then everything will end. He introduces his loved ones and friends. The girl congratulates Astario. The girl spreads her arms and says he will reach them sooner or later. Holding a weapon, the protagonist watches her, but he cannot afford to make the wrong choice. Those words about making Athena the strongest goddess stay with him. He chose this path himself. Until now, he had no goal or desire to become a hero and did nothing. Now he finally has a reason to try. The goddess tells them that the enemy chose him to dispel their mortal boredom. The man remembers being congratulated on his birthday and being asked to enter into a contract, but he tells the woman to shut up. The goddess lifts her hands and says she is grateful to God for the first time, thanking him for giving her such a wonderful toy, while the main character mentally asks her to stop approving of it. He shields his face with his hand, says he's not like her, and the goddess offers to dance so he can prove his strength to the world. The girl asks the guy to tell him that he is there, and the protagonist realizes he must silence her. The protagonist forces himself up, drops his weapon, and lunges to punch her. The man tells the woman to shut up and keeps attacking her, but she only smiles. The protagonist nearly reaches it, but Fenrir warns him not to be absorbed, which surprises him. An attack strikes from above, and the wolf Fenrir quickly appears behind the main character. When the attack hit the ground, it left a crater, and someone with 3 wings on one side suddenly emerged. A 6-winged man suddenly appears, flying across the sky and looking ahead. Saying this violates the agreement, he turns to Astarov as the girl looks at him. Fenrir flies away from the battlefield. The protagonist, peering out of its mouth, looks down and wonders what it is. Fenrir tells the man not to think about getting involved with him, because he is not old enough yet. The protagonist realizes this is a bad idea because the man is too far away from him. The main character still feels similar to him for some reason. The protagonist gets off at the rear and someone notices and asks him where he went. Apologizing, the man says he only wants to talk to Mr. Fenrir, who becomes angry. Astaroth asks about the contract breach. Could he be mistaken, or is he unwilling to tell her anything? No wonder she was looking for answers, given the appearance of a homeless goddess, Juno Astario's existence, and the so-called treaty that restrains him. She had long suspected what was going on. Astaroth asks the Flying One what he would say if nothing has ended yet, and he answers, "Respected Supreme God." That told the girl not to try, because her demonic eye would have no effect on her. The girl asks whether he plans to run away again, and she should know her place and simply keep the agreement. He said it was not time yet. Astaroth looks at him, laughs, and says she understands everything. The Supreme God says her time has not come yet either. The Supreme God calls the man a buffoon, and the protagonist looks at him in confusion as the god says the man is a fool who has not mastered his power and should not force others to soil their hands with him. The protagonist asks if he is a jester, and God says he unwittingly dances to fate's tune, a true jester, led along a well-trodden path, and that is who he is. The protagonist asks what he means, pauses to think, then asks in what sense. Astaroth appears next to Lucifer and laughs, saying she had told him he was an interesting guy, and that no matter how much he shows off, he will not understand. The main character realizes he is Lucifer, and questions whether he is the almighty supreme God. Lucifer calls him a nobody and demands to know why he is here. God says he has no purpose or principles, that everything in him is made by fate, and he chose nothing. The man thinks about what God is saying and what he means, but the main character cannot understand the words and feels his existence has no meaning. God warned the man not to disappoint him, and the main character watched silently as Lucifer left, taking Astaroth with him. The girl bids Juno farewell, tells him he can call if he misses her, and suddenly they both disappear. The main character stands more calmly than the monsters in front of the barrier. Then the monsters are startled and look around. The main character thinks the threat has passed, then glowing eyes appear behind him. Thank Fenrir for everything he did. Then blood rushed to his head, and he did not notice the threat from above. In the end, he didn't save Fenrir, but he did save his life, and he doesn't understand what he did. Fenrir stands calmly, looks away, and asks the protagonist if he is leaving. The main character agrees, picks up the weapon from the ground, and says the goddess and his friends are already waiting for him. Even with Astaroth gone, the monster's rampage eased, but he still hadn't reached his goal. Surely fate reveals that Juno Astario will stop the divine beast Fenrir's rampage, but he still must protect Fenrir. Fenrir suddenly appears right in front of the protagonist, blocking him, and the protagonist looks at him in surprise. Fenrir asks the man to climb onto his back and says he will take him to his friends, but the main character smiles, declines, and thanks Fenrir. Ray looks away. Everyone notices the animals running away. Astaroth pacified them, even though they were lower-level animals. They were oddly frightened, probably because fear was sent to them when they were made aggressive. Ray orders the men back to camp so they can regroup and move out on the next mission. One of the knights says they are finally getting to the main business, and Ray stays silent while everyone is in the central camp. The girl turns to Teacher Soleil and asks his permission to go look for it. After checking, she found the nearby divine power was gone, so she thought the forest was no longer dangerous, but the teacher refused her. The girl says she was the one who asked him, and when the teacher points to the side, she looks and sees a silhouette coming from the forest. Riding Fenrir, the protagonist thinks, thank God, the camp is definitely here. One of the girls laughs. Alice looks at him in shock and turns away, and the main character notices. He sees the goddess looking excited. She runs toward him and he happily gets off Fenrir. The girl happily hugs the main character and congratulates him on coming back, and he says he has returned. Grateful, the girl thanks the main character, opens her eyes in surprise, abruptly lets him go, and they look at each other, embarrassed. Ray walks up to them, turns to her and says they haven't seen each other in a long time. His sister hugs him and is very happy that he is alive. Everyone worried about him, but his sister was sure he would return unharmed. If he was safe and wanted to eat, she would share her food with him. The main character felt embarrassed and asked her to stop. The girl looks at this wolf and asks the man who he is. The main character says it's the wolf he met in the forest, and he rescued it from danger and brought it to them. Understanding this, the girl approaches the wolf, strokes him, and thanks him for protecting her. Despite being a demonic beast, he has remarkably beautiful fur, and the main character asks whether she can describe the situation in the forest and say if anything else has happened. He sees the wild animals suddenly regain their senses, lose their coordination, and run into the forest in fear. In the capital, we were also told that the cause of the rampage was the local forest guardian god. He expected this. Now the question is what will happen next. They must complete a critical mission, and the main character asks about it. This is the destruction of the divine beast Fenrir. The order was given to her and to the royal knightly order. Going to the camp alone, he hides so no one will find him. Fenrir says he is actually the guardian of the forest, and the main character says that is the reason. After encountering the goddess Astaroth, the divine beast Fenrir likely had his name dragged through the mud. He could be blamed for every sin, and he does not want to see that. A protector and god of the forest, he will do anything for him. The protagonist leaves. He is ready for anything. The battle with Astaroth gave him confidence, but suddenly he falls. Running out of strength, the protagonist sees Fenrir appear and offer to climb onto him. The man notices Fenrir has shrunk because he spent too much mana, a result of revealing powers he had kept hidden, and in this form no one will say anything. The protagonist asks Fenrir whether he will regret it, and Fenrir tells him not to worry. He should focus on himself now that he got out of the water dry. But others can track him by magic, so they may both need help. The man believes they know everything. The protagonist agrees with Mr. Fenrir's proposal. The protagonist asks his sister whether she thinks the monster rampage was caused by the divine beast Fenrir. The man shouts that it's a blatant lie, that Fenrir saved him and Astaroth caused the rampage, but she interrupts him. Ray tells the protagonist not to say anything unnecessary or she will not be able to protect him. When he asks whether she has any proof of Fenrir's guilt, she says she does not, and Fenrir has been called the devourer of gods since ancient times. If Fenrir is an enemy of the hero gods, there is only one answer. Any threat to the gods must be destroyed immediately. That is the view of the country's leaders, and the man points out they plan to kill Fenrir for such a trivial reason. Ray tells him to listen. This is a royal decree. Killing Fenrir is not an option, and the other gods support the decision. In this world, God's words are law, and if the hero who saved the world said it, the main character takes it even more seriously. The man believes a powerful unknown force has elevated lies above truth, and several gods support Fenrir's murder, which explains the strange sense that something is wrong with the world. Religion and the higher gods are spreading a deeply false story in this world. Anger makes him grit his teeth. Catastrophically lacking the strength to resist them, he cannot cope and must find a way to protect Fenrir without putting the goddess, the moon, or the people close to him at risk. Someone turns to the guy. The man says he heard him say that it was not Fenrir who started the rampage. You say he saw it with his own eyes. So who needed to do it and why? At first, the protagonist wants to say it was the goddess Astaroth, but he changes his mind and calls it a blue meteor. Ray looks at his sister and says that in the middle of the gods' battle, an unknown god as powerful as the goddess Astaroth suddenly appeared like a meteor. The girl says they are looking for a blue meteor. The guy is unsure if she means him, and the man tells Ray it is time for them to go. A man approaches the young man and tells him to stop talking nonsense. Earlier he ran off, then returned claiming Fenrir had saved him. The grinning monster suddenly saves Astaroth, perhaps because Astaroth hit his head, and his power looks godlike while he remains helpless. Remembering how the goddess asked him to save Fenrir, the boy feels that in such a rotten world he cannot fulfill a god's wish or even let Athena shine. Saying no is not accurate. He does not want the goddess Athena to shine in such a world. Knowing he must be cleansed, the man believed that if he disliked this world, he could remake it to be worthy of the goddess Athena. Fenrir asks the man what he is thinking. The protagonist has found a way to save his life, and Fenrir asks if he intends to stand against the whole world, but the man denies it. The main character says he won't stand against the world, but needs new power to carry out his plan. If his intuition is correct, Fenrir will be able to, and his actions will surely anger the goddess, so he tells her they need to have a serious talk. The goddess promises everything will be fine with her. A contract with a goddess is made once and lasts for life. This is the unspoken rule of the world. The man asks everyone to wait since he hasn't spoken, and she agrees, asking again to save Fenrir. Most gods disapprove of people worshipping several deities because the pact requires total trust and respect for one god. She never expected him to be only hers. Athena tells the boy he gave her light and asks him not to doubt that his beautiful kindness will make everyone happy. Surprised, the main character looks at her and lets go of his head, thinking about how happy he is. Happy he had made a contract with her. The man thanks the goddess, but the woman asked him not to forget. Because she was the first god he made a pact with, the protagonist finds her cute. The man orders all the squads to split up and start searching for Fenrir, and the main character asks the goddess not to worry. Even if the first god was an old man named Zeus, Athena would still be his priority, and she can be sure of that. The main character walks past his sister as she says goodbye, with people standing behind them. The boy nods in agreement with her, leans toward Fenrir, and makes his request. The protagonist asks Fenrir to make a contract with him. Fenrir asks what he wants, and the man says he needs power. He had already amazed Fenrir with his power, so making a pact with him seemed pointless. What he needed was the ability to change his appearance, even if it only altered his size. He remembered the words that he would not be the one to stand against the world. It says that by rewriting the culprit's name, the culprit will not be the goddess Astaroth, not the divine beast Fenrir, not Astario, but a blue meteor with such power people mistook for a god, and he will be able to break this false story. Fenrir dismisses this as nonsense. It's an interesting idea, but he does not really understand who the gods are, and making a god, an ally, or an enemy is harder than he thinks. The protagonist knows this, but only he can complete the task before him and will forge a new path for the world. The man says he needs Fenrir and his power for this, and Fenrir thinks about his words. The thin man at the rear agrees with him and says he will follow the same path, so the other man gives him a place in the front row. The main character tells teacher Solette he will take the beast into the forest, and Solette sighs, tells him to be careful and not too willful, and says he will be the one to answer for what happens. He looks at Fenrir, who says they should hide in the bushes that way, and he does not care where as long as no one sees them, but then he notices something. Looking at the goddess, the main character turns to her, and she tells him she can take him to her, saying his father's dislike of animals is not a problem. The goddess strokes Fenrir behind the ear and tells him he is a beautiful, elegant, and noble animal who will definitely love her home. The main character continues petting the wolf and then says it will only happen if he wants it himself. Both of them watch the wolf. One looks at him, then says he seems to want to go back to the forest, and they feel sorry for him. The goddess asks what he has in mind. The protagonist says he's going to the toilet. The girl says he can go right there. Yuno falls silent for a moment, then says, "This is too much," and the girl fixes her hair and says it's already over. The goddess tells the man he stopped the gods' war and came back alive. That's enough for you. This might be the first time he heard Luna speak so kindly. It made him wonder if she was truly that worried about him, or if there was another reason. He wanted to tell her something, but Luna asked him not to worry. Each of them lives here in their own way, and he is also just an ordinary man, her brazen, crude knight. If he still wants to go, have him swear to her first that he will return to her as he is. The man vows he will definitely come back as before and be with her in the future. She turns and walks away, telling him not to forget his words. He nods, and she calls him a fool. The man turns to watch the girl leave, and Fenrir says he noticed the man has great friends. Yuno looks down at him, smiles, and says he thinks the same. In Fenrir, a man and a wolf sit facing each other. The wolf asks if the man is ready, and the man will not lie because he is nervous. Ultimately, he must become the god who started the riot called the Blue Meteor, and stand against his sister and the royal knights. The protagonist holds out his hand and asks Mr. Fenrir to start, and Mr. Fenrir puts his paw into the protagonist's palm. I often wonder what Fenrir felt when he listened to his conversation with his sister. The divine beast that had guarded this forest for centuries was needed by the higher gods and their followers. He does not know how that legend connects to this incident, but the fact is the goddess Astaroth set the monsters loose and the divine beast Fenrir stopped them, and that truth is now being hidden and distorted in every possible way. This is completely wrong, so the protagonist begins changing the world and kisses Fenrir's paw. Suddenly, everything around the main character starts to glow, and he looks at it in surprise. Thinking the forest is peaceful, the guy is suddenly touched from behind by a woman's hand, and a beast girl appears to thank him as she hugs him from behind. The girl says she has found the meaning of her life, and the guy thinks the speaker is a girl, and that he has heard her voice before. The man comes to his senses, and Fenrir says they made a contract. Although nothing may seem different, he has gained several skills he did not ask for. The protagonist says he had a dream and asks what those skills are. Fenrir asks the man what is wrong with his face and what it means. This ability lets someone change their appearance to match any idea. It requires a great deal of magic, but that is not a problem for him. The man is pleased and says this is exactly the skill he wanted, though the name is odd. This skill only changes appearance, so remind him that those with a high-level detection skill can expose him. The main character decides to try the skill and, since he can change his appearance with his imagination, he creates a look he likes. Let her hair be silver like the moon and a goddess, her eyes blue like Alice's, her face like a handsome man's, and she wants to be as handsome as Klim. The clothes should be black, made from a fine, delicate fabric like Fenrir's fur. The figure is an adult. Keep the gender the same and give large wings like Lucifer's. The color should be the opposite of black. The main character says everything is ready, reveals himself to Fenrir, and asks how he is. Fenrir says he's not bad, and the man prepares to leave, flying away on wings. The man asks Fenrir to wait until the right moment, and Fenrir says he is already waiting. The fair-haired man who flew into the sky thinks the moon is beautiful, and when you get close, it draws you in. Everyone finds such things beautiful, and this is the truth and the law of this world. That's why the world needs someone who will call a mistake and remember the moments of life. He refuses to follow fate and will choose his own path, and he has found his sister and his knights. After changing his appearance, the main character turns to the goddess, the moon, and his sister, and says he will create his own history. Ray, about to grab the sword, asks the arriving protagonist who he is. A man declares himself a god and says he, Noah, is an evil god. He also lies, claiming he caused the monsters to rampage, and everyone looks at him in surprise. One of the leading knights looks at him and orders the others to surround him. The man just laughs because he knows this is how he will appear. The name Noah appealed to him after he read it in an old fairy tale. All that remained was to show the royal knights his strength and prove that Noah was behind the monsters' rampage, and then his mission would be complete. It's time for him to prepare to land. He's over a group of people, and he's thinking about how he'll manage to land. At night, a blast from the sky hits the ground. People cover themselves with their hands on the ground, and Ray thinks the enemy is attacking them. The main character lies in the center, their body pinned in the ground, a nightstand within reach. He stands up and laughs, saying the Earth's embrace feels so unpleasant today, then wonders what he's even talking about. People are shouting that they need to surround him, not realizing who he is. I want to leave and replay the scene, but once it starts, there is no turning back. That means he will crush them, and the man asks whether people know who they're talking to. Ray suddenly asks Garnos to return his soldiers. Garnos asks why, and says it would be better to catch the scoundrel immediately, but she screams that she will not repeat it. Garnos shouts for them all to stand still. The protagonist silently thanks his sister for turning her gaze to him, since he had been a little scared, but now he can. The main character says she can play a villain with no twinge of conscience, and that only this girl seems to have any brains. Ray tells Garnos that if he doesn't want to lose his soldiers, he should be more careful because it's probably not human. Garnos asks if this is the blue meteor, but she actually means they need to know about it now. Reports say the blue meteor's magical power should be comparable to Astaroth's, but he feels nothing like that and knows he made a mistake. Out of habit, he sealed his power and forgot, thinking he already recovered from the battle with Astaroth, so he tries to release a little, and suddenly a terrible energy pours out of him. Such power makes everyone tremble in fear of him. They start collapsing to the ground, not understanding what terrible magic this is, and he laughs at the idea that it might be a blue meteor. A man laughs out loud and says he finds it amazing that they started shaking like puppies. The protagonist asks where their cool went since they're already afraid, asks how they'll fight Fenrir, and lets them answer him. It looked like a pure coincidence, but he began to see why Lucifer had irritably labeled him a jester. They don't even try to find the truth. They only perform on a fake stage like silly puppets. They do not belong here. Just looking at them disgusts him. Garnos trembles and tells the man he is like a demon, while the man watches him calmly. The main character asks about the demon again, sits beside him, and says they are both villains, so they will become friends. He explains they plan to finish off Fenrir, who had tried to save them, to repay good with evil. It is truly the way of a villain to offer to make a deal with him. Garnos demands he be quiet, and he will not tolerate that kind of harm, while the man would argue about injuries he likely already suspects. The main character with a sinister look admits he personally orchestrated the monster's rampage. Ray studies him carefully, while Garno insists this isn't Aemon. saying plainly that Fenrir is the one rampaging and threatening the world and must be killed. A man grabs him by the forehead and tells him to go tell his stubborn master that no one can stand in his way against such pathetic non-entities. Angered, the man demands to know how he dares to insult their master. Then Rei pulls the man's hand off Garnos. Silently, the main character watches her as Rei introduces himself, says she sees that he is a god, and that she has a question. When the girl asks the guy his name, the main character smiles and prepares to say it. At this point, the main character falls silent, staring at the calm girl in surprise, and just opens his mouth. He clutches his throat, not understanding what is happening or why he cannot say his name. The goddess asked whether they knew about homeless gods like her, weak gods who did not even have names. She plans to lay down divine rules to stop the homeless gods from tricking them into making a contract. First, if you ask a god his name, he will tell you. Knowing the deity's name ahead of time lets them avoid an unwanted agreement, so they wrote it down in a notebook. Recalling Fenrir's words that it only changes his appearance, he reasons that since he is not human and divine rules apply, there is no reason he cannot call himself Noah. A sudden crunch makes him clutch his head, feeling like it's splitting. Voices say the name Zeus. The boy doesn't understand what it means. Zeus is the first god he made a pact with. When forced to say the name, Rei asks the man what happened. The man is in pain and feels heavy, as if he is not himself. The main character again remembers Lucifer's words that, without suspecting it, he dances to fate's tune. Whoever is led along the beaten path is who he is. He tries not to remember it. Convinced they're all tired of setting him up, he finds it disgusting and wants to name the name again. He manages to say his name is Noah as the ground beneath him starts to break. The attacker is about to strike, and Rei takes up the sword. They nearly collide, and the protagonist tells them to remember it well. When she learns his name is Noah, the girl smiles and a fierce battle between brother and sister begins. During the battle, the girl speaks to the blue meteor and says she wants to talk, but it seems determined to fight. Agreeing, the protagonist says he wants to quickly clear his path of the pathetic worms, and then they suddenly bounce off each other. The man realizes the headache has eased but isn't sure what caused it. The woman says she even feels a little sorry. She hasn't even used half of her power yet, which makes it clear this is all he's capable of. The protagonist watches her in silence. The guy laughs at first, admits he can't help but agree in that sense, then snaps his fingers and says it's because he only used 1/10 of his. She says she understands and will do as he asks, then puts the sword in front of her. A few swords appear directly in front of Rei, hovering above him, and he realizes this is the first time he's fought his sister since she became a holy sword. Ready to use their final technique, Juno Crisis, the girls all attack the guy. The girls' clones attack the main character from all sides, while he stands with his hands in his pockets. I can see that the strikes from countless projected swords, made as lifelike as possible, are an excellent technique, but he sharply twists his leg. The protagonist strikes out with a kick, hitting all the projections at once and leaving only pillars of dust around him. The man says the name is terrible. The knights are amazed he stopped Mrs. Rei's strongest move with a single kick. He laughs, saying that's all, and that he only caused a breeze with the kick. She admits he is strong and says she wants to ask something. The girl, out of breath, asks why he caused the monsters to rampage. Yuno says he did it just because, and if there was a reason it was to make everyone aware he existed. The knights become angry when they learn this was his only reason for killing so many children. They call him an evil god, and their voices will be used to rewrite history. Rei says that if this is true, the other gods will not stand aside, but there is no proof this is his doing. His sister is not one of them, and the cat treats everything as pure with no proof. Still, he can start the rampage himself, so he asks if they want him to do it now and pulls a goblin from the bushes toward him. All the knights stare in shock at the main character as he holds the goblin and flames rise around him. A man runs at him screaming and holding a sword, attacks him, but his opponent blocks the blow with his hand while Rei shouts his name. Garno shouts that he will kill him because if he remains alive, this country will come to an end. The protagonist squeezes the man's sword until it cracks, leaving him surprised. Rei demands Garnos step aside because he cannot handle this alone. But Garnos tells him to stand still if he values his life and his subordinates and warns he will show him the cruel reality. Unhappy with his eyes and loving his country so much, he should have made a better choice by carefully weighing the information he received and telling the truth, which he did. He was lazy, left everything to his beloved God, and refused to believe there was always light in his sister's eyes. She is trying to learn how to act better, but he does not see that effort in her eyes at all. The protagonist delivers a final warning. He must not desecrate her great deeds anymore and must allow her to live or die even if he thinks he alone can decide. People think it's impossible. They can't beat him and don't want to die. They're running away with nowhere to go. Let them come back. One man asks another if he will run away. The man is blessed by God. Yuno says with a smile that his plans are not destined to come true and that he will die. By then, he no longer knew who he really was, but that did not matter because he was ready for everything when he came down here. The protagonist orders him to strike and extends his hand forward. A man, but now he must become a god. A god who is afraid to kill people is not a true evil god. Such weaklings do not deserve the title, and the main character asks to beat him again. The man smiles and feels his hands shaking, wondering if he just threatened someone. The protagonist shouts for the man to disappear and unleashes a massive shockwave at him. The man covers his face with his hands, and the protagonist wonders whether he can bear the sin of killing someone. About to enter the fight, the girl suddenly notices something. The protagonist holds his hand out and thinks he did everything right. A man stands directly in front of another man who is frightened and shielding himself with his hands. He wonders if this is everything he wanted and whether he should show him something as the girl reaches out her hand to him. The girl steps in front of the guy to shield him. The attacks nearly hit her, and the main character is horrified. The man wonders why the goddess is here and thinks it is useless because he will not have time to save her. He knows he has just killed the goddess Athena with his own hands. Born with enormous magical powers, he wanted none of it. Not to be a hero, not to get rich, and not to be popular with girls, because the future held no appeal for him. He realized that even if any of this came true, he would not be happy because he had no dream. One day a light filled his heart. Born with an unusual power and indifferent to everything, he for the first time had a human goal. He lived only to make the goddess Athena the supreme deity. He still did not know what he had just done. The boy turned to god Noah, called him evil, and asked him not to underestimate him. Fighting broke out as his sister attacked the enemy. He will protect the goddess Clima, even if it costs him his life. The man asked him why he was there, and why he was interfering in the fight between the goddess and the others. The hero replied that he truly believed the man was playing the role of an evil god perfectly with that tear-streaked face, and asked him not to make him laugh. He said they followed him on their own, and he had nothing to do with it. The girl asked what he was doing and pleaded with him not to die alone. The hero reassured her and said he was healthy. He wondered if he had the right to be near such a beautiful goddess, and had been told not to say that he intended to retreat. The man asked if, in his view, the evil god simply stood like a pillar and stared at everyone with a surprised expression. He felt he had to do something, but his whole body was still shaking. The girl said the battle's tide had turned. Turning to the hero, she said another god had just appeared here. The girl pointed to another and said that this was the beautiful goddess Athena, with whom her beloved younger brother Astario, who was superpowered, brilliant, and handsome, had made a pact. She asked what the evil god would do next. He laughed and said he now understood how people fight. Noah said he had seriously underestimated them, and had not expected them to call on the goddess Athena to oppose him, adding that they had made a clever move. The men asked about the goddess to learn who she was, and realized the villain had panicked. If their mistress was speaking, it meant she had a secret plan. Still hopeful and wanting to believe in the goddess Athena, they asked her to protect them from evil. Noah said that the strongest warrior of mankind had joined with the strongest goddess Athena, and that things would not be easy for him. The girl replied that she was glad he had understood right away, and that if he now raged, the goddess's sacred hammer of justice would fall on him. When Athena asked what they were doing, the boy realized he had to act. Everyone was taken aback. He said she packed a pretty good punch. People asked one another what had happened since nobody understood. One of them said he had seen the goddess knock the evil god down. The goddess denied it. Noah said he planned to take today off. He said the people were saved and told them to thank Athena. He asked them to remember that one day he would change the whole world. Yatid said they will certainly regret their past actions. She told him he needed to get ready. She said the world would refuse to forgive him. A knight dropped to his knees and said they were saved. They began thanking the goddess for saving their lives and praising her, but she said it was not her fault and not her doing. Ray asked them to step back because the girl was confused. They face each other. The hero's sister said that thanks to her they had been saved from death, and, not knowing how to repay her, asked her to look after her younger brother. Athena remained confused and said that nothing was as it seemed. She asked what to do next. At that moment, the main character went off somewhere. He told her he would be back soon and pointed in the direction he had gone. Sat down to rest by a tree and said he was tired. Just as he planned, the evil god had become the enemy of the entire world. The man hopes the world's strongest will now go after him. Some will kill, some will act out of curiosity, and, as Fenrir said, others will try to expose him. Very good at hiding his powers, he still cannot relax even in his normal form because he does not want to put those around him in danger. The boy must be even more careful, even at the academy, and keep his abilities secret until the last moment. Only when the goddess or the moon are in danger. You once slept under the sun's rays? He woke to find the girl beside him. He was surprised, and she wished him good morning. The protagonist wondered what the goddess was doing there. The goddess said she was worried. She said he had barely returned from making the pact with Fenrir before leaving again, and now she found him there alone. Realizing Fenrir had taken his form and handled everything, the boy knew he would need to thank Climb as well. He apologized for worrying her. Athena warned him not to go too far alone. She declared she was the goddess after all. He picked her despite her being a nobody. The boy pleaded with the goddess to forgive her. Becoming famous this way is probably not what she would want. He resolved to make her a famous god. This is what he lives for. He offered his hand and invited her to join the others, and she agreed. It may be a lie now, but he will surely make it true. The man spoke about Noah's Ark. You wondered whether it was coincidence or inevitability as you laughed. The man said he had finally found it. A little girl asked a boy what was beside him. He told her it was a wolf he had befriended on a trip, and that he was now building a house for it. The girl watched the wolf closely. She asked him whether it was a female. He asked again, and she repeated whether it was male or female, but he did not know how to answer. The hero asked the wolf his gender, and the wolf said he could answer however he chose. The man told her it was a female, meaning a girl. She asked if the animal was his pet. Essentially a god, he is officially only a pet. The boy said it was his pet, and thought the girl was afraid to interact even with animals. She said the wolf was very cute, and a few days had passed since the incident with the divine beast in the forest. After thinking it over, he decided Fenrir would live with him in the flame estate. The girl asked to touch the wolf and was allowed. Luna wanted it too, so everything was settled surprisingly smoothly. She said she likes animals that look like dogs. The protagonist was surprised by that. Framed for a monster rampage actually caused by the gods, the divine beast Fenrir was saved by a man, yet people still mistrust him. And the same man created a fictional evil god named Noah and openly challenged those gods, so he hid with Fenrir for a while. Someone asked the hero how he was feeling. The girl asked them not to disturb the guy. Alice thanked him for his work and brought him something to eat, adding that she was not disturbing him. The hero thanked her. The heroine apologized for making a fuss over one dog hater, and he said it was nothing. A few hours ago, a man said no. They told him it was fine and kept the pet there since Luna rarely asks him for anything. He said it was a completely different matter. The man asked why they had gone to train in the first place, saying they had seen for themselves how dangerous wild animals were and worrying who would be responsible if something went wrong. The girl said she would ask another question, and asked her father if he thought the wolf looked like an aggressive, dirty animal that could harm people. The girl was pleased when the wolf offered his paw, since no one had taught him that, and she thought he was very clever. Looking at her, he recalled her words. After a pause, he said a booth was needed. He said he would allow the animal if it lives in a booth. The man found it too cruel, saying you cannot force a divine beast to live in those conditions. But when the hero asked him to reconsider, the beast said it did not mind. Small spaces made him feel calmer. The girl turned to the boy and said that if he needed anything, he should tell her and she would bring it. He agreed, and she asked what the wolf's name was. She was told her name was Pochi. Elegant, noble, and beautiful, all in one word, Pochi. The man repeated the name, and the girl asked if it was a beautiful name. The hero couldn't tell whether she was serious or even speaking. The wolf told him he liked the girl, and that she could call him whatever she wanted. Laughing at his wagging tail, she said she must have liked the name, and the boy felt amazed. Alice said she loved the wolf too, and people asked her to touch it gently because it might get frightened. But it did not run away, so everyone thought it was clever. The protagonist asked the goddess if she wanted to touch the wolf because the wolf was furry. Once more, she asked if she could do it. He told her to step into the fluffy paradise. At the Duke of Rose's estate training ground, the girl pierced the enemy with light magic by launching a shining arrow. Reading a spell is the limit of her power. That is not enough. She must learn to use at least medium-level magic without written text. The same situation from the past could happen again. Remembering the situation, she wondered if the hero would answer if she asked him the same thing. Trying to push the thoughts away, she realized she did not want him to protect her at all. Alice reflected on how she felt about him. A man came to her with a request and she responded quickly. He told her the woman wanted to speak with her about a social event tomorrow. She asked him to tell the woman to come see her after training. The girl said she would come soon. Major Phalis Selina Ballet of the Academy of Knights, head of the Academic Council. A sigh escaped her before she entered. He thanked her for arriving on time. As he began to speak, Selina interrupted and asked him to turn on the light first. To start, the man suggested we remember the new students who returned alive from the forest of the divine beast and proposed a toast. Lloyd Mertz, vice chairman of the Academic Council, thanked the gods for the blessing. Their glasses touched, and the girl thanked him. She began to drink and felt the water. Selina agreed and added that not a single student had been harmed in the monster's unexpected rampage, which was at least something good. If this was truly a blessing from the gods, they should thank them first. Speaking in another language, he told her about the day of rage, and she asked him again. Lloyd asked if she was feeling it. He told her not to claim that a genius like her didn't know what a day of rage was. Pretending ignorance would make him upset. The girl missed his meaning because he spoke too awkwardly. Selina realized he was smart. She said she hadn't tested him, and asked if he knew they had been ordered to keep silent about what happened in the forest of the divine beast. Only the students who were there know that, besides the monsters rampaging in the forest, there was a battle between the gods, and he, a member of the Merds family, is in charge of the kingdom's secret affairs. He said she was head of the Academic Council, the eldest daughter of the Duke of Ballet, one of the 4 great aristocrats, and the woman of the Crimson Princess sword. Her sharp gaze cut through the darkness and deserved respect. He called it excellent. She thanked him and thought she wanted to go home. Lloyd spoke the name of the evil god Noah. The girl was eager to get down to business. The man said his family's chronicles knew no god by that name. His magic, however, surpassed the beast god Fenrir, and the goddess of love and beauty, Astaroth, was no less powerful. Selina asked whether he knew anything about this unknown god. Mentioning Noah's Ark, he surprised her by linking the evil god's appearance to that famous fairy tale. Liv replied that it was most likely. He said he'd be better off staying silent. The girl is indignant. It bothered her when he talked so much and then fell silent. And he said some things were better left unsaid. He also mentioned the tournament date was coming up. The girl realized he knew nothing. He said their academic council was made up of the 3 students with the top grades in each year. And this year newcomers would join them. Alice, who topped the entrance exam, and Climb, who placed second. The last participant will win the fighting tournament that starts next month. When she asked whether he knew who would win, he said yes. She asked him to tell her who it would be. Lloyd told her it wasn't her sister. She dislikes people who create an air of mystery, but trusts Lloyd completely to understand people. Selina knew deep down it would happen, but she still hoped. He told her that by asking him, she showed she already had an idea who would win. The girl answered yes. He asked her to guess, and she said they should both answer at the same time. Turning to the main character, the girl said the wolf was very fluffy, soft, and warm. Soft and fluffy, the animal felt like a gentle cloud. The main character was pleased to see everyone smiling. Naturally, he knows not everything he did in that forest that night was right. The boy truly wanted the goddess Luna and Alice to smile, and for Fenrir to be with them. He wanted to look at it. His eyes burned, and the wolf asked where he was going. The man replied that he was going to the bathroom. The deity told the protagonist that some men had already noticed him. The wolf said he would watch those around him closely, and warned the boy to be very careful when alone. The protagonist felt it had happened sooner than he expected, and thought about who they were referring to. In any case, this was no time to indulge in pleasant feelings. In the Felice Academy of Magic Knights arena, Athena trembled while the protagonist encouraged her. A light surrounded her, and the man said she had succeeded. Saying she was glowing, the girl was glad she could do it. She turned to the man and said she could not only hover a little now, but also give off light, and he replied that she was wonderful and looked almost divine, which was a sign her strength had grown. Stunned by her increased strength, the girl fell silent, and the protagonist asked her what had happened. Awkwardly, she asked if she could be of any use to him, and he found her cute. She was told she was useful, and that if she was nearby, he would not be afraid to go home at night. Both of them were very happy. The protagonist gave an awkward laugh and said he also had to train hard before the tournament and would keep practicing. The boy hissed at those words. People began asking whether the rumors were true. Rumors said the goddess Athena had driven off the blue meteor, and they warned him he could be wiped out for it. Of course, that was a lie. He expected it, but being ordered to keep silent was painful. The goddess's increased power shows a witness spread the rumor about her, so the slightly strained performance was a success. A man approached the main character and said he seemed to be in a good mood. Marrow looked at Greed and asked if the trip had been fun, and Greed said it had, despite the hero being talentless, always going off alone and causing problems for everyone. The main character apologized to him for what happened then. The man asked whether he truly considered himself guilty. He said that Elise, Luna, and all his other comrades failed to see reality, and that the main character was only showing off. This left him unable to understand what they saw in such mediocrity, because the main character had only made a pact with God, and it produced no results. Moro said this was unsurprising, and though the boy told him to stop, he kept talking about the God he had made a pact with. Moro suddenly collapsed, which shocked everyone. They called the teacher to help the boy, and the main character thought he was probably bleeding from his head. Athena asked if he was okay, then turned to the teacher and said the man would take the boy to the medical center, and the man agreed. The hero said he had to go to the medical center and ask the goddess to stay with Alice for now. Alice hadn't come today, which was unusual, and he remembered it. He still invited her to go with him. She said not to worry, she had business to attend to as well. He said they'd see each other later. She said the same. The teacher asked him if he could carry the boy alone. The protagonist said he could. Morrow was a bit heavy, but it was manageable. The man warned him not to overdo it. The man apologized to the boy, but he said he would not forgive the insult to his goddess for any reason. Morrow had been completely different, he remembered. Upon entering the medical center, you asked for forgiveness, but he saw no one there and decided to place the man on the bed. Seeing the man, he assumed he was a handsome senior student. The man gave off a smell and said it was interesting. He thought it was fate, and the protagonist saw him wrapping himself up and asked if he was hurt. The man told him it was not a wound, and that he was only making a seal. The main character thought the injury was serious, and it was best not to mess with that guy, so he said it was time to go. The man spoke the name of the evil god Noah. He told him he was certain the boy had seen a new legend and a god. When the protagonist asked what he meant, the man assumed it was to keep him quiet and said he could see how obedient the guy was. He introduced himself as Lloyd Mers and asked whether the name was familiar to the protagonist, who remembered the family as mysterious and involved in secret state affairs. He answered that he knew him, and Lloyd said the Mers family recognizes and records all phenomena in that country connected with the gods. These phenomena include the clash between the goddess Astaroth and the divine beast Fenrir, and the arrival of the evil god Noah. He said that's and taking that into account, he would ask again. Lloyd asked how the evil god Noah appeared to the protagonist. The boy asked what the man meant and wondered how much the man knew and what his goal was. Lloyd said he didn't like to beat around the bush and preferred to get straight to the point. Noah said he was frightening. Even the top royal knights seemed like babies beside him. The man asked what he looked like. The boy answered that he had silver hair and blue eyes. He wore a black cloak and had white wings on his back. Lloyd asked him what he thought when he first saw him and whether he found him handsome. Laughing, he said that was the answer he had been hoping for. The man asked again, and he confirmed it. Upon learning about the phenomenon, the man was flooded with emotion. Finally, a worthy god appeared with whom he could make a pact. The man said Noah was a bad god. Lloyd said so, but in that dull world he alone gave off an alien glow. The protagonist admitted he had started the riot, and that many innocent people had died because of him. The man asked if he really believed that. The man told himself to calm down and stay cold. He tried to read the other man's eyes. The protagonist asked what he really believed. The rampage was started by the divine beast Fenrir, and the goddess Astaroth fought him. This is the clearest, most reasonable explanation. The guy believed the man thought the same. Lloyd asked whether he would be upset if Lloyd told. He said he dislikes explanations that are too neat and believes myths and legends should sometimes be hard to understand and remain beautiful. Based on his understanding, he said Fenrir did not start the rampage, and most likely neither did the blue meteor. At last, the protagonist understood what his very first words had meant. The goddess Astaroth is responsible for the rampage. Lloyd insisted this was the truth. The boy believed their meeting was meant to be. She said she had posted all the announcements about the fighting tournament. She still needs to finalize the participation applications, count the applicants, hold a draw, and will likely ask the second-year students to serve as judges. People began coming up to the stand to say they'd finally posted details about the fighting tournament. The girl invited them to join and said she would be happy to see them. The guys were surprised to see the head of the academic council. She asked whether they were ready and energized. The man said he would do his best to win. With the top two, Alice and Climb, barred from participating, they have a rare chance to show their abilities at full strength. Among the strong opponents and likely winners, only Lucius remained. If they don't nod off, they might even join the academic council. One of the men said he wasn't sure. The girl said it showed great zeal. She wished them good luck. The boys thought she was beautiful. They started whispering that the man was very brave to say that in front of Selena, and he was surprised to realize he had said it wrong, so they told him to remember her beloved sister, who also wanted to join the academic council. The man said he had forgotten her. Although they were in the same year, others said he had strongly hinted that the Duke's eldest daughter's younger sister was a nobody. The Duke was one of the 4 great aristocrats. They began comparing her to Selena. The girl noticed a woman walking and wondered where she was headed. This year, the protagonist must win. When asked why, Selena listed 3 reasons she is interested in a man labeled talentless. Her fencing teacher often praised his potential. The famous Lonely Moon appointed him her knight, and his entrance exams were striking, with a below-average practical score but a perfect 100 on the written test, the first time in the Academy's history, which officially shows he surpasses them all in knowledge. He said he understood and did not deny her words, though he found her view superficial. She asked what he meant, and he replied that the main character was clearly more intelligent than the others. That, he added, raises one question. The pact with a homeless goddess haunts him. Since the Astario family's founding, he was called the least talented, yet he had a brilliant mind and still made a foolish mistake. So the girl began to question the reason for the pact with the homeless goddess. There are 3 possible explanations for this. First, he may have become so powerful in secret that he no longer sees the pact with the homeless goddess as a problem. Second, he may already have a pact with a known god and have gained enough power from it. The girl asked about the third point, and Lloyd said the man might just be a fool. She asked if he wanted to check it out. He said no, and that there was no need. There is no need to speak to him in person. The fighting tournament's results will tell them everything, so they only need to wait for that day. The clever eagle hides its claws. The protagonist insisted the heroic goddess Astaroth could not be responsible for the rampage, and that is ruled out. She already saved the world once, after all. Lloyd asked who Lady Astaroth had saved then. Yes, the protagonist, had he ever thought about it, would have noticed the strangeness of that world. Did he ever feel rejected by the world? Thinking it over, he had many ideas, but people called him mediocre, a mistake, a disgrace, and they chose him as an enemy to ease their mortal boredom. From the moment of his birth, he was already outside the laws of the universe. One of the gods congratulated him on his birthday and asked him to sign a contract. Until now, he had tried not to think about it, convincing himself that Zeus's power was to blame for everything, since no matter how much knowledge he gained, he could not find the answers to the main question. The boy asked whether he needed to do anything to get the power. God told him it cost nothing. Lloyd said that looking at the main character's reaction shows he was right. The protagonist asked why. The man said he felt they were similar. No one understands his thoughts and ideals either. From birth until now, he has constantly doubted the world's structure. The main character felt it was too long and turned to the man. He asked whether the pact with the homeless goddess was wrong. A goddess called a hero can also go on a rampage. If the gods in the whole world are wrong, they can change everything. This will not be easy. The most important thing for him remains a strong will. He He said that if he had comrades on his way to the highest goal, he could overcome any difficulty. He is convinced that even in that dark world, morning will come one day. That night you first challenged the world as an evil god. The protagonist said that every night comes to an end. Lloyd said the man was excellent. He awarded him 100 points. A book materialized in the man's hands, and the hero was overwhelmed by a sudden, powerful, magical force. The Book of the Apocalypse has appeared, containing the world's secrets. He asked what kind of picture was in the book. The end had come, the end of the world. The large black circle represents the power of darkness and stands for a secret conspiracy. The prophecy says that one day that world will perish from many hidden intrigues, and to prevent it, he needs a comrade who can become a singularity like him. The man asked again and said he understood, but his thoughts were full of prophecy, dark forces, a conspiracy, an apocalypse, the end of the world, and it all came so suddenly, he had no time to make sense of it. Lloyd laughed and said it felt great and that he hadn't felt like that in a long time, admitting he had expected the main character to be more complex, but not to this extent, and the guy thought he understood nothing, yet apparently liked him, which was good. Lloyd offered his hand in greeting. He told him that from now on he would be his comrade. The man felt he couldn't do without that person either. The protagonist said he would introduce himself again as Yuno Astario, the third son of the Astario family, while Lloyd introduced himself as Lloyd Mertz, the second son of Count Mertz and deputy head of the academic council, and they have united to create a world worthy of the goddess Athena. The boy was surprised to learn he was deputy head of the academic council and the academy's second in command. Lloyd was surprised the boy had not known, but he found it interesting. The man said the apocalypse was a secret between them and didn't even reveal it to the head of the council. The main character was grateful to be shown such a treasure and promised not to tell anyone. The man began thinking about revealing a secret and felt he could share it with him. A secret he had long wanted to tell someone, but could not. Zeus was his most important secret. He meant to ask him if he had heard, but Lloyd attacked the guy. The man asked him how he knew the name. Threads wrapped the protagonist. Thread control is an assassin's technique. Though he relaxed, it didn't feel that way to him. Seeing Lloyd, he smelled blood. The man was ready to kill without mercy. Mertz's family was far more vicious than he had imagined, and the boy warned he would ask one last time how he knew Zeus's name. After he asked him to answer, the protagonist asked him how he knew it. Zeus is the name of the most powerful god. Lloyd said he had good taste, and the guy felt cool because he was able to fool him. He said he appeared to have rushed and apologized to him. It's now clear Lloyd Merz knows something about Zeus, but it's too soon to get into that. First, he must carefully earn his trust. The moves were cool, he said, and it was the first time he'd seen anything like that. The man said the main character is probably smart and guessed, but his family has handled the country's secret affairs for generations. He learned these techniques in special training, so his surprise makes sense. The hero asked what the secret affairs were. Someone replied that perhaps one day the other man would be able to tell him everything. Yuno failed to dodge such a sudden attack. At this level, he won't be able to get into the study council and won't even become a singularity. Turning to the hero, he said that to look into the abyss he would have to prove his strength. Yuno left. Lloyd asked him why they were laughing. The boy said it meant he had passed. He swung his fist at the Lloyd. The protagonist asked him if he had seen it. Lloyd laughed and understood this was Yuno's true power. He still does not disappoint. The boy said he likes him more and more. The hero said it was an honor to hear that. Upon waking, Morrow asked where he was. Lloyd sprang up and asked the hero to lie down. Yu asked what he was doing, and he covered his mouth. He warned him that it might be an assassin from an enemy organization. The boy said it was not true, and that the other boy was his classmate. Lloyd again asked whether he had seen him dragged to the infirmary. The protagonist said he had been very close. Morrow asked if anyone was there. He was asked to be quiet because the enemy was close. Morrow came upon the men piled on top of each other. He asked what the guys were doing and whether you wanted to go with them. After all that, word spread through the school in an instant that the main character preferred boys. People started whispering as they recognized the main character. Nobody expected him to be a boy. Marrowburn supposedly caught him red-handed in first grade. Avoid his gaze or he will attack. People should be careful. They suggest that might be why his weapon is a spear. The protagonist was unhappy with Morrow. This was something he never expected. Already branded talentless, cautious, and a tyrant, He kept telling himself it did not matter. Athena faced the protagonist, who turned to her and asked what had happened. Awkwardly, she opened the conversation. The girl asked him whether he liked boys. He told her it was not true and that he loved and adored girls. The guy said he even thinks about girls while he sleeps. She said that's what she thought, and the man confirmed it was so. Alice thought the main character had caused a stir again while she was away, and the girl behind her turned to her. She asked whether it was true that you know, and Lloyd were dating. She doesn't want to believe it, but needs to know how things really are, and Alice told her to calm down. She spoke with him, realized it was a misunderstanding, and told him not to worry. She said she felt calm now. She asked Ina if they were dating, The girl said that if that were the case, she would tell only Ina. She believes only Mr. Klim can be the young man's partner. During the trip, she noticed the mysterious heroes met each evening, and at first she was overcome with doubt. Then, one day, by chance, she heard words from the boys' bath she could not say out loud, and that convinced her the couple existed. Alice asked what she was talking about. The girl admitted she had talked too much. Alice said she needed forgiveness and did not understand it well. Ina suggested she start from the very beginning and tell everything. She said she could not resolve the situation on her own. Ina said that in romantic relationships between boys, the roles of Seaman Yuk are very important. Athena asked the protagonist if he was studying there that day. He said he had a joint class, so they were going to the ladies' class. Before him lay a class of flowers, a class of birds, and finally a class of the moon. Athena asked if she could step out for a walk for now. The man asked if she could manage on her own. Athena said she had long wanted to take a closer look at that beautiful building. He warned her not to follow suspicious people. The girls surrounded the goddess, greeted her, told her she looked very beautiful, and asked what had brought her there. He thought it might be safer there than at the Academy of Magic Knights. He started looking for the moon's position, and it turned out to be alone. He told her he would sit next to her. The girls' academy apparently heard the rumors. Their looks seemed to him not contemptuous but rather intense. She said he was popular. The man asked again. She said she wanted to talk to him about something and ask him, and you heard her say it aloud. Luna asked whether he liked boys. The main character said it was not true and that there had been a misunderstanding. The girls were dejected and the man did not understand why. Luna apologized. You were surprised. She said, as the saying goes, there's no smoke without fire. The girl asked what had happened to them, and he said nothing had happened. Lloyd suddenly threw him to the floor in the medical center, and Morrow saw it. The girls were happy the guy was Yuk because they had guessed correctly, and the main character wondered what was wrong with them. He said he felt a little scared, and the girl told him to relax because people's attitude toward him had not gotten worse. When the guy asked what was happening, a strange hush fell over the class. She said it was entertainment for them. The academy had only girls, many of whom wanted excitement, so a rumor about him and Lloyd spread. Everyone was clearly interested. The protagonist said it wasn't obvious. The guy asked why so many rumors were spreading about him. The girl said he was underestimating himself and that since he became his knight, people had gradually started to view him differently. She said he looked good as well. Lloyd is so popular he has a fan club, and if they are dating, it will be big news. He felt she had not convinced him, but he understood the situation overall. If the rumor were not so harmful, he would try to resolve the misunderstanding gradually so it would not trouble the goddess. The man spotted and recognized the blonde girl. He wanted to know who she was. Luna said it was Cecilia Alfred. She is her own savior. The girl asked what it all meant. When asked what she meant, Selena said he understood everything perfectly and that he would not contact the main character. Lloyd laughed. The girl asked him not to do it. He said he hadn't meant to do it, but she had put him in touch with him. Selena asked who he meant. Lloyd said it was destiny. In the end, she asked how they had started talking about him in the main character's dating life, since the whole academy was talking only about that, and the guy asked again. He said everything was going according to plan, since the main character had become his ally, which was basically the same thing. She asked what they had been doing together. The girls said their assumptions seemed correct and asked what he planned to do with him, and one suggested giving him a seat on the academic council and letting him use it, or bringing order to the council he controls from the shadows. And the man replied that it was not as she thought. As he said earlier, the main character is his comrade. In other words, he decided the man was worthy of facing the world's abyss. She asked whether he truly wanted to bring him into his organization. She began screaming, telling him to stop making that kind of joke and demanding to know what he was thinking. She said he was putting him in grave danger and intended to kill him. He told her she had misunderstood something. He is the leader of the organization she considers dangerous. Why introduce a useless person to him? By now, the protagonist's true strength has long since exceeded that of an ordinary student and is likely comparable to theirs, if not stronger. The girl said he could not be that strong. Her sister came to mind. Selena thought her sister might need the main character. To act, we must do it now. In other words, the magic power needed to activate each level is fixed, and each spell uses a different formula to cast. The protagonist remembered the girl's words and tried to understand why the girl called her a savior. Cecilia plotted against the moon in a terrible way and should have been expelled from the academy for it, yet she sits next to her in class as if nothing happened. And this is certain because the moon did not sell and the eyes in the case of the goblins. The teacher said he believed they had at least heard of 10th level magic. It takes more than raw leg power. The cost is paid in life force, so it is called the magic of a miracle. Since they met, he thought he was beginning to understand the moon, but he was too quick to celebrate. When she asked what had happened, he said nothing had. She looked at him, then turned away. He still found it surprising. Hardly anyone expected Mara to become Cecilia's knight. With the lesson finished, they were reminded to review the material for the exam. Luna said the man studied the girl closely and asked whether she was his type. He answered, of course, no. Cecilia walked up to Luna and said she had brought a very reliable knight. She said that knights like that probably only happen to lonely people. Cecilia called the girl by name. She was surprised by how many flowers there were. They greeted her and asked where she was headed, and she said she'd decided to walk until the moon class ended because she really liked the garden. Honored that she liked it, they told her to enjoy it. Athena thanked them. Cecilia observed that maybe only lonely people experience nights. She, unlike the other, made the second son of the Byrne family, who knew a lot about magic, her knight. Feeling drawn into a quarrel, the man decided to see how the moon would react first. The girl decided to leave and invited the main character to come with her. He believed his mistress had ignored the girl very elegantly, but the boy knew it was a bad move. Cecilia grabbed her hand and asked if she was joking. She said she wasn't making fun of him and told him to let go of her hand because she only wanted to leave. As she swung, a man grabbed Cecilia's wrist and told her to stop. Too much action will ruin her position. She said doing it this way would be even better. He wondered if she was in her right mind because she was acting so irrationally. What took place between them? Cecilia said she could see the girl was having a lot of fun, since Cecilia always had a trump card she could use to kick her out of the academy instantly and was even mocking her. She asked if the other woman meant the incident with the goblins and told her not to worry, because she would not tell her father or the academy management. Cecilia said this is exactly what annoys her, and asked whether she had offered to thank her for it. The girl replied that she was actually the one who was grateful to her. In the end, thanks to her, she had the best night. Ultimately, Cecilia is her savior. The man thought it was strange that even the moon could not hide her irritation. Her feelings were justified, and it was clear the girl was at fault. She was overly proud. Cecilia is likely burning with envy of the moon. Mocking, the girl asked if the moon had said that the knight was the main character, so that this mediocrity, the first in the family's history, would be considered the best knight. She asked her to explain how the weak, spineless main character is the best. The guy believed he was surprised by this turn of events, but he thinks the girl will answer her cleverly because she knows what he's really capable of. Cecilia laughed, and the hero turned to her, noticing something strange happening to the girl. She said she felt deep pity for her, since the girl neither acted like an aristocrat nor understood people. He wondered why she added fuel to the fire. Cecilia asked if she meant that her knight would lose due to her lack of talent. Luna asked if she knew, but her knight had already lost to the protagonist once. Moro said that was not true. He beat him in a training fight because he used the skill. Moro had already said losing to him without a spear was impossible. The girl told the protagonist to show them his strength and not to hold back. Cecilia turned to her knight and asked him to silence them. The man said duels over personal matters were banned by the Academy's rules, and with the combat tournament starting soon, it was better to settle the fight there. Moro asked if the protagonist was scared. Luna said the hero was right. If both won their tournament fights, they would eventually meet in the final, provided her knight reached it, and Cecilia said those should be her words. She explained that her knight had made a pact with a powerful magician, so they were at a disadvantage. The hero asked about the magician. The man said he wouldn't tell him anything, and that he'd get it all at the tournament, so he should prepare. The protagonist was surprised Maro had a contract, since it would make it harder for him to restrain his power in that fight. And the idea of a contract was beyond her understanding. It was surprising that only talented students studied at the Academy of Magic Knights. One of them had made a pact with a homeless goddess. Remembering Athena's name, the girl said that signing a lifelong contract with a talentless god who could not even give a proper blessing was pure stupidity, and it was clear a talentless person needed a talentless god, but she ran out of time to finish. A man approached her and warned that if she said another word, he would not forgive her. Cecilia got very frightened and fell. The protagonist suggested Luna leave. He figured she had probably heard everything. A girl stepped forward to the heroes and asked them to listen. She said she walked a lot. Athena asked if they knew that beautiful flowers bloomed in the Academy's garden, in red, yellow, blue, and purple, and she had found a very strange flower with an interesting pattern. The gardener told her that some rare flowers grew only at the Academy, and a man asked if she would walk with him through the garden because he wanted to enjoy the beauty too. He's had a smile on his face the whole time. The girl said she had found a strange spot where water was bubbling. The man assumed it was a fountain. Athena said that was quite possible. The protagonist was sure he would win. No one will be allowed to call his goddess talentless. He will show such overwhelming power that no one will dare laugh at him, and he will win the tournament. Moro kept asking himself how long he would have to sit, and how long the wait would be. The room went dark. The man assumed the roof was leaking and that people were mocking him, convinced he had been deceived. A man began shouting that the agreement with the great god was nonsense. He has been waiting for 6 hours and no one has shown up. Moro began shouting who others thought he was and bragged about his relationship. He smelled iron and someone apologized to him for the delay. The man asked what had happened and whether he had seen anything frightening. Moro was surprised, and the stranger asked him to sit down. The man asked if the boy had been expecting him, apologized for being late, said he had an urgent matter and was shaken, which surprised the boy, then offered to settle everything quickly and asked if the boy wanted to make a deal. The stranger said he saw he had spoiled his mood and felt he needed to hurry. The man said that was not true and asked for forgiveness, and another man said they should forget the unpleasantness as the best option and start the ritual. He paused and said he needed to ask something first. The man said he was collecting information on homeless gods, and when asked again, the stranger said, people dislike them, and he does not want to leave his relatives in trouble, so he is looking for them. He asked whether he knew anyone like that. A former homeless god is now at his academy. The man asked if, since he used to be homeless, he should have made a contract by now. The boy replied that one had been found. The stranger asked the name of this god. Maro replied that her name was Athena. Bursting into loud laughter, he said it was wonderful, and he was right after all. It was no wonder he thought the scenario was going too smoothly. Mrs. Astaroth began to act cautiously. Maro turned to Alphys. Apologizing, he said they had not finished the ritual yet and still had high hopes for it. Lately, the goddess has been acting strangely. She used to follow him everywhere, but now she often went out alone. The guy was upset that the goddess was avoiding him. First, he needs to calm down. She is a goddess, after all, and must be busy with her own divine duties. He is sure she simply does not notice it. Today she told him she would finish her business before classes ended. The protagonist thought that if he had business, nothing could be done. He grabbed his head and tried to imagine what business she could have. His curiosity grew, and he thought about asking the goddess himself, but her calling solo actions business suggested she did not want him to know the details. She even called a walk, just a walk. He decided to find her since classes ended early, and this was his chance to learn the truth. The main character bumped into a girl and apologized, and she said she should have been the one to apologize and that she should have called him. She said she'd actually come for him, but he seemed lost in thought, so she stayed quiet. He thanked her. She asked why, and she realized what was happening to him. He did not know her, but she told him he had beautiful eyes and they really did look alike. The girl said she had a request for him and asked him not to listen. I cannot rewrite text that sexualizes someone who may be underage, and I can help if you provide a version that clearly says the person is an adult or removes sexual elements. Worried that they had just met and she already had a request, he found the whole thing suspicious. But his intuition for such matters was strong and he apologized. planning to decline politely. Apologizing for the suddenness, she said she did not mean to impose. He said she could ask for anything. Laughing, the girl said he was interesting. Exactly what he had expected. The innocent smile of the girl he adored. Selena said she was the third year, then apologized and asked him to go with her right now, and he asked her to wait. He is looking for his goddess and asked her to fulfill the request later. When she asked whether he meant Lady Athena, the girl told him not to worry and to go with her, but he did not understand. Not knowing where they were going, and with no one nearby, he could not tell if this was academy territory. Surprised the goddess could actually be there, he watched as the girl turned to him and warned him to mind his steps from there. Selena vanished. He quickly realized she had erased her aura with magic. It was likely a high-level illusion cast without spoken words. The girl must be unusually powerful, even for a top-class student. He saw Athena and couldn't figure out why she was there. The girl was practicing magic. He thought she was cute and was surprised she was training alone. He remembered her saying she did not know if she could be of any use to him after he had chosen her despite having nothing. He realized that after that camp the goddess began going off alone, and everything became clear to him. Selena asked whether the man was calm now, and he said he was a bit surprised but thanked her for helping him. The girl said she felt very happy. He asked her to tell him what she wanted. The girl's hair is the same color as Selena's, but he is even more concerned about her strange movements. She said she wanted to ask him one more time. The girl asked him to join her for training. He asked who she was, and Selena said she was Tina Ballet. Like him, she is a first grader at the Felix Academy of Magic Knights. The girl said this was her younger sister. The girl said she refused and was asked to explain why. Selena asked why, saying that if she wanted to improve as a battle mage, a sparring partner would be much more useful. She appreciated the older sister's concern, but insisted her goal was to win the competition and get into the student council, and that she had trained hard for it. In any case, everything would be meaningless if he was her sparring partner. The boy wanted to go home and return to the goddess, while the girl asked Tina to listen carefully. She asked whether she knew the main character standing behind her. At the moment, he is the best candidate to join the student council. The girl said it couldn't be true, because he was the third son of the Astario family and could use neither a sword nor magic, notorious for being bad at everything. The man feared her famed caution would hurt him even more, though he was sure she was still a good girl deep down. More importantly, Selena said she would see for herself since she thinks that way about him. She wanted at least one small fight before saying he was unfit for her training, which surprised the protagonist. And the girl turned to her older sister and asked her to tell her one thing. When she said he was the most likely candidate for the student council, was that her personal opinion, or was she saying it because she was the student council president? The protagonist was surprised to be the student council president. The girl said it was unclear, though the Aloud had said the same thing, and the guy was surprised Lloyd said that. He realized the mystery was finally solved, and it all seemed planned by Lloyd. Selena might have heard about the infirmary incident, and the protagonist recalled the man's warning that to bend into the abyss he had to show his power, so he decided to act and show the student council president he could control the spear. The girl said they had to fight and would show him what her training had taught her. He asked whether she intended to use the sword. Clearing her throat, she asked if he had a plan. Assuming it would not help him, she offered to show him something special. First, she asked to hold his sword. He said it was heavy. She asked him to hold another object, but he did not understand why it was needed. She then asked whether he felt light. Assuming the man had figured it out from her face, she confirmed it, saying she'd been training with a magically weighted ball. But for this fight, she'd use a wooden sword so the match would be easy and she could show her full potential. Selena laughed awkwardly, and the man thought she was a comedian. The girl said her older sister should just look at her. She had to see how strong she was. The protagonist thought the girl had taken a slightly mystical stance. The man asked Selena if she really wanted this. She said her elder sister was serious and asked him to take that into account, and he agreed. The girl attacked him. The man searched for a long stick, found one, and decided to pick it up. He planned his next move. Losing was not an option, especially since the girl had no tricks. She told him he could only dodge her blows, but now it would all end. The girl told him to brace himself for the most powerful special attack she had ever performed. She cast a spell that cut through light. The boy was stunned by the light magic. It was a rare, nearly obsolete form of magic. For some reason, his blood felt like it was boiling. Surprisingly, he found the girl very pretty. The man beat her, and Selena declared the duel over. The younger sister refused to accept her loss. The protagonist didn't do anything special. In a back-and-forth fight, the outcome depends on how large the gap between the weapons is. As a swordsman, he had to recognize that and adapt. This girl might be much more interesting than he first thought. He checked whether she was all right and whether he had heard her, and she began to explain her special attack. She complained that her light cut didn't work. Trying to reassure her, the protagonist said her special move was impressive, and the blend of her unique stance with light magic worked well. The girl cried that she had lost for nothing, and that her path to becoming the strongest swordswoman in the world was over. The guy thought Lloyd had told her. The protagonist turned to Selena and asked her what to do. She said it was a guy's responsibility to calm a crying girl down and to wish him luck. The hero turned to God for help. Meanwhile, the sidelined goddess kept focusing on her training. The girl said the guy was strong enough, and she was right. The main character thought it wasn't right for girls to calm down and cry. It wasn't like he'd done anything wrong. What bothered him more was that Athena was nearby, and he hadn't had a chance to talk to her. He turned to Tina to ask her something. She replied that everything was fine, and he could just call her Tina. He asked how long Athena had been studying. The girl said she did not know exactly, only that Athena had already been there when she arrived. At first, she seemed deeply absorbed and determined. Tina said she likes people like that, and even if she is not human, the reason is the same. I believe she always tries to do her best. The girl turned to her older sister and apologized for not showing her best earlier. She said she would train harder and asked her to keep looking after her. Tina said she would definitely join the student council. Selena said that to keep her promise, she had to defeat the protagonist. She said she was the Barrett family's second daughter, and the man claimed she was the Astario family's third son. The girl apologized to him for her rude remark, and if he still agreed, he could be her sparring partner. The man agreed, which surprised her, and she asked whether he felt disappointed in her. He replied there was nothing to worry about and said he looked forward to working well with her. The girl said she hoped for the same, and the guy thought Tina had spoken well of Athena, so there was no reason to be disappointed in her. A squirrel rushed at Athena, and she apologized to the squirrel for scaring it. Returning to the academy felt right to her. Tina asked about the spear. The girl replied that yes, she'd said this before, but the spear fits her better. She told the main character so. The final blow against her was impressive. Her potential is in precise strikes rather than sword swings. Tina asked if she meant what Lloyd had taught her earlier. The man asked whether she had trained with him. The girl replied that it was called the Way of the Strongest Swordsman Under Heaven and uses the same ball control style Lloyd taught her. Then she asked if it was cool, and the hero answered yes. Lloyd may have had many odd ideas and passed some of those moves to Tina, who does not seem to be just playing around. He asked whether Lloyd had told her anything else. She asked for time to think. This happened right after she began attending the academy. The boys walking by asked what the noise was. When they saw the girl, they called her a loser and felt sorry for her because no matter how hard she tried, she would never catch up with her older sister. She told them to say it to her face if they had something to say and called them cowards. Tina said she would show them all, and Lloyd said the wind was howling. The girl recognized the man's voice and heard him ask if she was still stuck in the same place, but she did not understand him. He told her she could reach the next level if she let him teach her a few tricks. Surprise crossed her face. Lloyd said he had never taught anyone this hidden and powerful sword style. She was taken aback by the hidden and powerful technique. She always tries to do her best. The girl turned to her older sister and apologized for not showing her best side earlier. At the end, he told her that the one who masters the sword strike also masters the spear. So she must learn what he taught and become stronger, and the man thought it was a mistake to doubt Lloyd. Selena said she believed Lloyd also meant the spear style wasn't suitable for them, although she had never trained with a spear. From the start, the girl looked at the main character and assumed he was not very strong. He confirmed it. She asked what he had become with the skills he had acquired. He said it was like this, and everyone saw it the same way. The girl told her older sister she had changed her mind. She said she would enter a contract with Athena. The man looked surprised. The boy froze, unsure what to do since he might scream with joy at any moment. At the academy, the goddess Athena's name had become well known, but the harsh truth was that no one had ever wanted to make a contract. And then, for the first time, someone did, and Selena told her to do as she wanted. As the older sister, she still had to tell her. Athena had originally been a nameless, wandering deity. In short, making a contract with her now offered almost no benefit. She confirmed the girl understood that. As bleak as it is, Selena is right. In that world, most people aim to form a contract with a great deity. It makes sense since they are still young. A contract is possible only once in a lifetime, so there is no need to rush. Tina said she sees no problem with that. She has repeated her goal many times and wants to get into the student council. To achieve it, she decided she urgently needed a blessing. That's why the girl will succeed with a god like Athena, a god who does not hold back his strength. That was when the boy made his choice. Athena stepped out toward them. Apologizing, he asked whether they had disturbed her, then extended his hand and invited her to come with him. Tina asked Athena to join her in signing a contract. The girl said she was still not good enough and her powers were weak, introduced herself, and the goddess said she would only load her. Years of mistreatment since childhood left her friendless, so she no longer cares what others say about her. Athena kept trying to dissuade her. Tina said she would spread the goddess's name and show everyone she really does try. Crying, Athena said she would try very hard then too. Tina said she would try even harder in that case, and the girls laughed. This contract is the result of the goddess Athena's own efforts. The girl trained secretly with many people and is now reaping the rewards. The man told her he was proud of her. Selena said she really couldn't do anything about it. Turning to the main character, she asked him to look after her sister. Selena was right that for now there is little benefit in making a contract with someone like Athena. He won't hesitate to use all his power to glorify the goddess, so he's acting now to prove choosing Tina was not a mistake. The men promised the girl she would not regret it. That day he gained a valuable new comrade.